Embrace residence and citizenship in a foreign nation. Elevate your quality of life. Enjoy visa-free travel. Provide the best education to your children. Embrace boundless opportunities. Destiny Migration Company. Your destiny with us.
Good afternoon, Trojans and distinguished guests. Welcome to the Astor Ballroom of the St. Regis, Jakarta for USC Marshall Summit and Trojan Reunion in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, in honor of the Republic of Indonesia and to celebrate our Independence Month, we kindly request you to please rise for the national anthem. Singing the national anthem Indonesia Raya. Kindly be seated. Thank you. Good afternoon, Trojans. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the Astor Ballroom of the St. Regis, Jakarta. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Denisha Sinai, and it is my absolute pleasure to be your Master of Ceremony for this fantastic occasion of the USC Marshall Summit and Trojan Reunion in Indonesia. First, let's give a big round of applause for all of us. Thank you for the energy. First and foremost, on behalf of OSCE Board of Supervisor and Trustees, we would like to take a moment to recognize the esteemed guests who have joined us today. Welcome to our Honorable Ambassador, Ambassador Sung Kim, the U.S. Ambassador to Indonesia, Ambassador Sonny Bowo Laksono, the former Indonesian ambassador to the U.S. All of our distinguished panelists, and our warmest welcome also to Professor Richard Dropnik, former director IBER MBA program, Marshall School of Business, USC. And also extending our warmest welcome to Dean Geoffrey Garrett, the Dean of Marshall School of Business. And of course, to all of our MISIP students, can I hear your voice? And all of our distinguished USC alumni. Thank you for your presence, and we feel truly honored to have you here. To light up our Trojan spirit, let us give the biggest round of applause to all of us. Trojans! Trojans! Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We also would like to express our sincerest gratitude to our esteemed sponsor, whose generous support and contribution has made this event possible. Thank you to our platinum sponsor, Destiny Migration Company, Daya Semesta, Agro Persada Group, Euro Medica Medical Aesthetics, and AC Venture. We also would like to extend our gratitude to our gold sponsors, Surya Daya Indonesia, Kepala Jenggot, King Coil, Multi Kreasi Enterprise, and 3A Collection, our silver sponsor of Rejuve, Synergo East Venture, Spade Living, Kemayoran Driving Range, Prometheus Data, Lux House, and Top One Oil. Thank you for your unwavering support to the community. It is truly commendable. Ladies and gentlemen, the USC Marshall Summit is a collaborative event between the USC Marshall School of Business and AUSG, where Trojans, alumni, and friends can hang out in a fun and informative social gathering. This summit is bound to be an incredible chance for our guests and panelists to connect with the Indonesian Trojans and vice versa. Moreover, it will serve as a platform to kickstart a scholarship program for the MASIP MBA program at the USC Marshall. Our summit has some key components, including two scheduled panels. The first panel of the future of AI and business, and the second panel of sustainable growth path towards Indonesia Emas 2045. This session will offer valuable insight and fresh perspective on global and local trends from expert viewpoints. To kickstart this event and extend a warm welcome to all of you, we have a series of opening speeches lined up, and we are delighted to have our first speaker. So without further ado, let us give a big round of applause to Mr. Franz Gunawijaya, the president of AUSG, to take the stage.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. Warm welcome. Thank you everyone for coming. And I want to thank you Ambassador Sung Kim for coming and Dean Garrett for hosting us and Ambassador Sonny for coming. Today is a good day for us together as alumni, because we have some announcements. There is a scholarship that is I want to thank you to Pak Boy and Pak Edwin for trusting us and giving us the trust to run the scholarship. And I'm very happy that all of us come together and fight on.
Thank you, Mr. Franz Gunawidjaya, for the warm welcome. Next, we have the honor of hearing another welcome remarks from the U.S. Ambassador to Indonesia. Ambassador Sung Kim is a prominent diplomat currently serving as the U.S. Ambassador to Indonesia and the U.S. Special Representative for DPRK. Let's give a big round of applause and welcome Ambassador Sung Kim to the stage.
Thank you very much. I obviously didn't get the memo about the dress code. I want one of those shirts before I leave. Look, it's such a pleasure for me to be with this very distinguished group of U.S. University alumni here in Jakarta. Although I have to admit, I had no choice because I have many good friends who are among the USC alumni. Pak Boy, Pak Husodo, Pak Franz, Pak Edwin, and these guys would not have left me alone if I didn't show up today, so here I am. Really delighted to welcome Dean Jeff Garrett to Jakarta and his colleagues from USC. Look, I grew up in Los Angeles and have many friends and relatives who went to USC and have long been a huge fan of USC. So I'm very excited that the Dean's here and very excited to discover that Indonesia has such a strong network of USC alumni. And as this audience knows well, the US offers the best education, period. And USC, as I'm sure you will agree enthusiastically, is among the leaders in the United States. And I think it's important for us to work to make sure that more and more Indonesians have the opportunity to study at great institutions like USC. So we at the embassy are working very hard to come up with programs, including direct support for students, but also supporting through various educational programs like the Fulbright program. And I just heard from Franz the exciting news about new scholarships being announced today and tomorrow, which is great. We're also working closely with the Indonesian government, with the Ministry of Education and LPDP committee to promote studies in the United States. The educational ties that we build not only lead to meaningful business connections, but lasting friendships that support the overall relations between our two countries. And as ambassador to Indonesia, that really makes a huge difference. It provides the kind of strong foundation for our relationship in terms of strategic partnership, economic relations, and everything else we do between our two countries. And in many ways, I think our two countries are uniquely positioned to work together on sort of the emerging challenges. We saw this with the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. We're seeing it on climate through our Just Energy Transition Partnership. And I think on supply chain disruptions as well, we're working together very closely. Business development is, of course, a big part of our overall relations. And I think all of you, as graduates of one of the finest institutions in the United States, especially the Marshall School of Business, I hope you will take an interest in how we can work harder to deepen the economic partnership between our two countries. So as I sit here and congratulate you on this forum, I ask that you continue to take an interest in the partnership between our two countries and support everything we do to make sure that our two countries remain best of friends and best of partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Sung Kim, you are welcome to take your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, it is a true honor to have the Dean of Marshall School of Business here in Indonesia for the very first time. Your presence has making this event more special. Let us welcome to the stage Dean Geoffrey Garrett.
Good afternoon, and of course we have a fantastic MC, but I'm afraid I have to start with a correction. I've only been Dean of the Marshall School for 3 years, and I think everyone will remember that there was no travel for the first 18 months during COVID. But I think I've been here not once, not twice, but 3 times as Dean of the school because of just how important Indonesia and our alumni presence and our current students are here. It's a real honor for me to be here with my colleagues from Los Angeles, to be part of this extraordinary event. I think it's a great balance between intellectual content and what I'm sure is going to be a fantastic party later tonight. Let me start with an observation that I've been challenging some people to correct if it's not correct in the last couple of days when I've been in Jakarta. So my observation is that I believe this event is the largest ever single USC event in Indonesia. And I know that that's only possible because of the power of ALSI. And let me tell you that ALSI has become very, very dear and near to my heart, and not only because it sounds a little bit like Aussie, and I am an Australian, but I just admire this organization so much. I'm going to make another superlative statement that I just think is true. I've had the honor to work in lots of great universities around the world in the last 30 years, and most universities think they have the best alumni base among their peers. Now, I think you all know that USC, the Trojan family, is genuinely unique. But if there's something above unique, it would be the power of ALSI in Indonesia. I think it's the single most impressive alumni club of a university that I've ever been associated with. And why is it so impressive? Well, the first thing is scale. The fact that there are more than 1,500 members of this institution is pretty impressive, but it's not only scale. Everywhere I look, I see superb corporate governance in ALSI. We have executives, we have transitions in presidents, we have management committees. I think we have not one but two boards. This is an incredibly well-run organization, and the thing that permeates everybody is their desire to be together and their desire to be together as Trojans in Indonesia. So if I took my hat off, I might not be able to get it on, so I will just have to metaphorically say I tip my hat to ALSI because it's just such an extraordinarily impressive organization. And I should also make clear something that I think most people in the room know. This event is an ALSI event. I'm just so happy to have been invited to be part of it. So I want to start this event by both congratulating ALSI but also thanking everybody associated with it, led by, in this case, the sponsors, the board directors, the committee for this summit and reunion. I want to thank and congratulate you for the incredible work that you have, and I know how much work you had to put into this event to make it to where we are today. So let's pivot a little bit to Indonesia. Indonesia is very important to the Marshall School, it's very important to USC, and it's also really important to me personally. You know, Indonesian students have been coming to Marshall for more than 50 years. I think at some point we should do a parlor game of who's the earliest graduating alum in the room, and maybe we can give some prize for that. But it's more than 50 years ago, which is quite extraordinary, I think, when I think about the arc of history. This relationship between USC and Indonesia goes back more than 50 years. If you think about where we are today, there are currently 80 Indonesian students at USC, and at Marshall rather, multiples of that at USC, and the balance of our students has tilted in favor of undergraduates away from graduate students at the Marshall School. But I think, you know, the ambassador, I thank the ambassador for encouraging people in Indonesia to think about great American educations, but I know it's equally important for our students to experience Indonesia. And I'm so pleased that just in the past year, we have had a group of MBA students and a group of undergraduates come to Indonesia to experience the country firsthand, because I don't think you can get a feel for Indonesia by reading a book or watching a video. The only way to do it is to be here in person. And I am personally very committed to creating more opportunities for our students to spend time here and to add value to Indonesia by working on projects that are valuable to you. And Pak Husodo, thanks so much for your role in helping make that possible. You know, the ambassador mentioned, and I think this has just got to be true, that for a country like the United States, the rise of Indonesia is just an incredible opportunity. You know, I think I'll mention in the growth panel that I saw a really good graphic last week, which was projecting the size of economies in the world from today to the end of the 21st century. And the snapshot today, it was only the top 10 economies in the world. The snapshot today does not have Indonesia in it. Indonesia is somewhere between 13 and 16 in terms of economic size in the world, at least if you do it at market exchange rates for the economists in the room. But just like the ambitions of this country for 2045 in the centenary, Goldman Sachs predicts that Indonesia will be the number 4 economy in the world by 2050. And I think that will just create more win-win opportunities for USC and the Marshall School here. I know we will benefit from the rise of Indonesia, but I hope we can contribute to it as well. I also wanted to say that my thinking about the future of the business world actually has been really heavily shaped by the time I've spent here in the past couple of years on 2 dimensions. The first one is sustainable and inclusive growth. We will announce a big initiative at the Marshall School in the fall on that. And just being able to participate here in the way people are thinking about growth not only for itself, but growth for everybody in an inclusivity sense, and growth that's going to be sustainable for the planet, that's really influenced my thinking. The second area, equally important, and I know incredibly important here, I've had the good fortune to speak with Pak Boy quite a bit about this in the last 48 hours, but energy transition, and in particular the role of the private sector in energy transition, is going to be globally so important. It's going to be important for the Marshall School, and I've learned a lot about that because of its importance to Indonesia. So, for me, the opportunities here are incredible, but the only way we can realize the full opportunities is by linking hands and doing things together. And that's why it was so fantastic for me to be the interloper in a ceremony last night between the Tohir Foundation and ALSI, where I was the marriage celebrant to celebrate this incredible new scholarship that's going to be created to help Indonesian students defray the costs, the high costs of an American education to go to USC to get a Marshall IBER MBA. But I was just saying to the ambassador before we came up that I was so impressed, Pak Boy, with how you thought about this. Your desire to give back to the country is at the core of who you are. And so the fact that you wanted ALSI to be the manager of the scholarships, but also insist that the people who get the benefit of a USC degree come back to Indonesia to make a greater contribution to the country, I think that's just a fantastic situation. And, you know, I think my worldview is always to look for win-wins. In my personal life, in my professional life, win-wins is where it's at for me. But there's only one thing better than a win-win, which is a win-win-win. And I think these scholarships certainly are a win-win-win. First, they're a win for the students who are the recipients. People are going to be able to come to the Marshall School in Los Angeles who would otherwise have never dreamt it because it wouldn't have been financially possible for them. Second, it's a win for us at Marshall because we'll get incredibly talented students who will also bring perspectives to the campus that we otherwise would not have, so we'll benefit enormously from. But the last win, and this was Pak Boy's insistence, is that I hope these scholarships are a win for Indonesia as well. Because the scholarship recipients will come back to this country with what they've learned, the new experience they've gotten, and enrich Indonesia as a result. Now, the scholarships, when I first heard what the scholarships were going to be called, Tamba, I thought, okay, that makes sense. Tohir, Aussie, MBA. What I didn't realize until Dick Drobnik, who is far more fluent in Bahasa than he likes to let on, told me that Tamba also means to add more. Dick, is that the term? So I have no doubt that these Tamba scholarships are going to add more. And just a little tease for later on, some of the add more might happen sooner rather than later. So I'm not going to say any more. I see there are some smiles in the room, but I'm not going to say anything else. So let me end. I've already overstayed my welcome at the podium, and I'm going to be back for a couple of the panels. But let me end with the three most important words. The first important word is congratulations. Congratulations to everybody associated with ALSI for putting on this incredible event. Second word, which I have to hyphenate to make one word, is thank you. Thank you to everyone associated with this event for all of the vision you had and all of the hard work you've put in to make this possible. And the last word, and I promise this is the last word is welcome. Welcome to this incredible event that will have a fantastic balance between intellectual content and a wonderful party. So on behalf of the Marshall School, again, I just couldn't be more pleased to be part of this event. I think do we have gongs now? We're going to get the party started, I gather, in a really Indonesian way. So let me leave the mic and put it back in the hands of our most capable MC. But again, this is my third visit. 1, 2, 3 in 18 months. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Please remain on stage, Dean. As you said, we will hit the gong. Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly request the warm welcome to Ambassador Sung Kim and Mr. Franz Gunawijaya to join Dean Garrett for the opening procession symbolized by the striking of the gong. Please join us on stage as we initiate this special moment together. Now we kindly request Dean Garrett to hold the gong hitter and lead the procession alongside Ambassador Sung Kim and Mr. Franz Gunawijaya. Let us count together in 1, 2, and 3. Please give a big round of applause as we officially commence the USC Marshall Summit and Trojans Reunion in Indonesia. Thank you, Mr. Franz, Ambassador Sung Kim, and Dean Garrett. Kindly return to your seat. Now, Trojans, before we kick our first panel session, let's take a moment to energize and enjoy ourselves by participating in Nadak Ondel-Ondel dance. Ondel-Ondel holds a significant culture value as a big puppet symbolizing the warding of evil and a vital part of Betawi original indigenous tradition in Jakarta, often featured in ceremonies and celebration as we have today. Today, as we come together to celebrate the Trojan spirit, let us embrace the joyous essence of this dance. I kindly request everyone to rise from your seats. And let's get ready to join the Nadak Ondel-Ondel dance. Trojans, are you ready? We're gonna see the example on the LED, yes? So please rise, everybody. kindly do. Shake your hip. Nobody standing still. Come on, everybody. Shake your hips again, to the left, to the right. Come on, everybody, where is your noise? Thank you, and give a big round of applause to all of you. You may kindly return to your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, Trojans, it is with great excitement that we kick off our first panel session on the USA Marshall Summit. As we all know, AI has become an integral part of our daily lives, influencing various fields such as business, art, and education. Today, we'll delve into the impact of AI on business, the strategies to harness and upskill the business with AI, and the essential policies needed to protect against any potential exploitation. Let's dive into this captivating conversation and explore the possibility that AI can bring to our business landscape. Now, without further ado, let us welcome back Dean Garrett, who will be our expert moderator in leading the discussion on the future of AI and business. Dean Garrett, the stage is yours.
I would be back. Is my microphone on? My microphone is on. I warned you I'd be back. I think it's entirely appropriate that we begin. Is that good? That we begin this event with a focus on AI and business. You know, the launch of ChatGPT before the end of 2022 was obviously extraordinary. 100 million people becoming active users within a week. We'd never seen anything like that. So I think that, we all understand that there are incredible business opportunities that are coming from AI, but that there are also, it's understandable that many people in society are really worried about the unintended consequences of AI. So much so that the president of USC, President Carol Folt, has taken to, when she talks about AI, to quote the movie that won Best Picture at the Academy Awards last year in the US, everything, everywhere, all at once. That's what AI is these days. And no surprise that AI is at the center of what Carol is calling moonshots for the university. Big initiatives at USC, and one of them is called Frontiers of Computing. AI is central to it, and the Marshall School is central to the AI initiative. We have an entire academic department of data scientists at the business school. We have now our largest graduate program is called MS in Business Analytics. It's an AI-focused degree. At the end of this month, we're going to have a brand new degree joint between the engineering school and the business school at USC called AI for Business. Our Neely Center for Leadership is concerned about ethics in AI, and our Digital Competition Initiative is concerned about the regulation of AI. How can we regulate AI without stifling innovation? So given all of those priorities that we have on the ground in Los Angeles, I was so pleased that the ALSI team decided to dedicate this session to AI in business. And it's my honor to be able to moderate just a fantastic panel here this afternoon. So let me briefly introduce our panelists, and as I name you, could you each come up in turn? So the first person is my friend and colleague, Tianchu's son. Tianchu is associate professor in the data sciences department at USC, but he also has a joint appointment in computer science at the Viterbi School. His teaching and research, please sit, looking good by the way. His teaching and research focuses on what he calls digital transformation between the on and offline world. And he's worked with an incredible array of the biggest tech companies in the world, including Facebook, Alibaba, and Adobe. And he's a real expert on China's digital transformation. And I think one thing he's going to talk about today, he's certainly impressed on me, is the fact that as we see constraints on globalization as we used to understand it, that is the movement of goods and services, what we're now seeing is, even if that's slowing down, we're seeing an acceleration of digital movement in the global economy, what he's calling globalization 2.0. So welcome, Tianchu. A second, Herman is here, Herman Wijata, who's the CTO of Tokopedia and the CEO of a fintech called SDB. He also supports, I know, and you're committed to, the Tokopedia Academy, cultivating new talent in technology. And prior to Tokopedia, he led technology teams again at some of the biggest names in tech, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft. And in addition to that, I gather you hold 8 patents, and you've got 4 that are under application. So welcome, Herman. Last but certainly not least is Jennifer Zhang. Jennifer is a visionary entrepreneur in generative AI. She's a co-founder and the CEO of Wiz AI, and she's led the company to become a global leader already in another term of art, AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. And under her leadership, the Wiz AI has already achieved remarkable growth and is now serving over 300 clients around the world, including many Fortune 500 companies. So thank you very much, Jennifer, for joining us. Okay, so let's get started. I think we'll start with you, Herman, because the Tokopedia Goto story is an incredible one. So can you sort of walk us through it a little bit with a sort of AI lens rather than just a broad tech lens? So please tell us the story a little bit.
Okay, so I think, hi everyone, my name is Herman. I'm so proud to be part of this room, even though I'm not a Trojan, so I started learning about some of the moves, so thank you. Thank you, Dean Garrett, for having us. So I think when you look at Indonesia in the last, I will say 10 years, right? The digitalization is really, really up and growing. I think for the last 10 years, there was a bit of excitement towards making things actually digitalized, right? And given the landscape of where we are, right? We are basically one of the largest marketplace in Indonesia, Tokopedia. We are basically serving more than 100 million users, 14 million merchants, more than 1.8 billion product in our application, right? So even when you think about how we can actually give the right recommendation when you are searching for iPhone case or whatever it is, right? This is no longer a traditional technology can solve, right? AI is something that we have to go. In fact, search is our first application of AI 6 years ago. The same thing with Gojek. I think 2 years ago, we married with the largest mobile on-demand in Indonesia. They're actually serving food. They're actually serving the right? Very similar as well. How do we make sure that we actually put the right pricing at the right time based on the supply and demand. That one will also require a lot of AI
So
solution as well.
I just, so we make this as interactive as possible, I mean,
Sure.
everyone who's not in the business thinks that ChatGPT was the revolution, but that's obviously only about, large language models and,
Yes.
and text and voice.
Yes.
So give us a sense of what AI in the back office, in the engine room looks like at a company like Tokopedia.
I think maybe for those of you who are not technologists, the difference between AI and traditional technology is as simple as when you ask what is 1 plus 1, in the traditional technology, we tell you 1 plus 1 equals 2, because that's what mathematics basically said. But in the artificial technology kind of world, why 1 plus 1 equals 2 is because many people said 1 plus 1 equals 2. And also it's justified by the real user. So I think there are a lot of learnings in actually AI. And when we basically started when we basically exposed to the needs of AI back in 2016, the reason is because the scale of where we are, we could not be able to do it with a normal traditional way. That is why we have to brave ourselves to jump into AI. Was it easy? Definitely not. Because when you move into AI, there is a path of you have to learn, you have to allow the machine to learn and bake in and stuff. So now, those are the stuff we call it traditional AI. It's very, very interesting. 2016, 17 is the sexy things, AI, but now we call it traditional because now the LLMs is literally all over the place, right? And I think what's so cool about what I call the second generation of AI is the adoption to coming to AI becoming easier, right? Recently, we basically use a public LLM, right? One of the public LLM, and basically I said to my team, hey, you know what? In the past, whenever you want to know what is the HR requirement, HR rule book, HR guidance, we always ask the HR person. Now, with the simple PDF, you put it into a LLM, and suddenly you can basically just ask the LLM. So I think now was actually what I love so much about this AI version 2 is the adoption becoming so easy.
So can I ask you about that too? So we're trying at the Marshall School to stay in front of this, to put a lot of AI into the classroom. And one of the things I saw last week is one of your colleagues, Tianshu, was showing how now you can talk code without being a coder into an
Yes.
LLM. So is coding as a skill going to go away, do you think?
No, I don't believe that. So I think when we look at AI, to me, technology is an assistant, right? It actually helps us to be better. Yes, there are a lot of tools called GitHub Copilot or Amazon Code Whisperer that the promise is that it can actually replace you doing coding. That is not true at all. What it does is basically it helps you with all the mundane tasks and everything else so that coding becomes easier and faster. You can actually create a test automatically using those kind of system. However, it's not bulletproof because then you have to need the human mind to see whether what you are actually testing is still right or wrong. So LLM, in my humble opinion, will not change the developer or whoever. It's actually just enable them to be better.
Okay, so Jennifer, when we spoke, I think it was last week, you had this really, I thought, creative example of LLM use, which was sort of simultaneous translation, I think, into lots of smaller languages that wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, you're not in Indonesia, you're sitting in Singapore in a very different environment. Could you talk a little bit about your perspective on this possibility, the sort of internationalization where everything doesn't have to be in one language because of this simultaneous translation possibility?
Yeah, actually, very proud to share. Because I think once last year we have the ChatGPT popular among the US. Then we actually have been organizing a discussion internally. Then we think about what actually the use cases is most popular and powerful to enable our local customers. So some of them actually the e-commerce player, the cross-border. Yeah, I say yeah. By the way, our product manager is also SC. So at that time, so the content is when they actually develop SQU instruction, not only for the text, but also voice, but also video. They need to actually, for example, make the English one first, then need another operation teams, make another Bahasa version, and need to translate it. and also distribute it in the Bahasa platform. So now what do we do? Actually very simple. We transcript one English version, and the click, you can generate Bahasa, Thailand, Tagalog, all the Southeast Asian language one time. So it means like, your operation people don't need to actually rewrite the same SQL description at the text base.
So that's a fascinating thought. I mean, in the global period, we thought English has obviously become the global language of business. There's a possibility with AI now that won't be the case, that smaller countries, smaller languages will be able to retain their distinctiveness without a loss of efficiency. You think that's realistic?
I think we are into the two phase. So number one is really you still have operation people, but with current efficient tool, you can generate one time with multiple language. And second one's what do we see is how to enhance it and polish it with a more localized tones. So that part is still actually under the control of the operators. I think that's also come to Herman's point. It's you can generate 1,000 million lines code one time, but there is maybe solution arc will jump in and products will jump in, say whether it's actually efficient code or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly when I was listening to both of you, I mean the abiding perspective I have is that AI is just going to dramatically increase the efficiency of people who are already very productive. And of course that has potentially big macro employment consequences. Maybe we can return to that. But the second question I wanted to ask you is about the environment in Singapore. Singapore is clearly trying to become a big digital capital. There's a lot of foreign investment, a lot of people moving from China, tech companies, etc. Why do you want to be in Singapore? Is it quality of life? Is it regulatory environment? Is it the capital? Can you talk a little bit about it?
I think I can retreat back. What do we do at the beginning? So building with AI. So I think 5 years ago we select where is the headquarters. Then we realized there was very interesting parts we landed Singapore as a first stop to building our enterprise products. So the good parts of that is number one. So it's actually very open and innovative environment in Singapore, especially enterprise. They are very willing to try the new products. And second one, I think is mostly talents. So as I mentioned, because most of AI talents actually centralized in Singapore, then they go to somewhere else. I believe even now a lot of tech giants is there to.
So it's not about the regulatory environment. It's a sort of agglomeration effect that talented people want to be with other talented people.
I think it's also because currently they want to building an open environment, but also they want building trust and verified AI environment in Singapore. That before, for the past 5 years, they have the platform, and actually, if you're an AI company, you can actually verify it and be there. Then you can adapt to other regions. So that's actually something they push. Now I think this coming to another topic, like how can we making a very more compliance AI environment into the countries? Yeah.
Okay, so Tianchu, let's go to you. I mean, you've influenced me on two thoughts. Digital transformation is everywhere and globalization isn't dead. You've been spending a lot of time in China, you know the big Chinese players. What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think, Jeff, I think we have talked a lot about those two trends, digital transformation and globalization. And I think both trends are converging, and I call it global digital transformation, which is the globalization 2.0. Like, I have this point that physical goes national, while digital still goes global. And while you can see all the manufacturing, supply chain are going back to the within the national border, the cloud computing, the generative AI, the big data, the Web3, the virtual reality and augmented reality are still kind of going global virally. If you look at the adoption of ChatGPT, if you look at the Web3, if you look at the cloud computing, it's all in that pattern. And I think this pattern this global digital transformation pattern will still continue. And just follow up on your previous two questions to Herman and Jennifer. And I think that currently there's a democratization of AI. And I think that's very important. Not only kind of break the boundary of language, but also break the boundary of kind of professional expertise. Let's say in the past I teach a class at Marshall called Essentials and Digital Frontier of Big Data, DSO 428. I need to teach a lot of SQL database language. Now, if you look at Power BI by Microsoft, you can just use natural language to program, right? And you can also use like Indonesian language to talk with like people in other parts of RCEP. And I think that power of global transformation and that power of democratization of AI is like really beneficial and really valuable to the globalization.
So can I ask you, that's really helpful. Can I ask you a little bit about China?
Sure.
So, you know, Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu came up in a very different era. Then we had, you know, restrictions and slowdown in the tech sector. Is there I know you know Alibaba very well, is there an AI version of Alibaba? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, very good question. I think there are opportunities for the like new startups, new companies to emerge in this era of generative AI in two ways. The first way is on the consumer side. I think there will be new types of search engine or like virtual assistant in all types of industry.
And so Robin Lee in Baidu, right? He's
yeah, it's like new type of Baidu.
He's really good at he's been thinking about this for a long time.
Exactly, Robin. But I think there might be new type of virtual assistant, let's say in the area of healthcare, in the area of like travel. You can just talk to the chatbot, and the chatbot will kind of retrieve all related information to you. And that might kind of be a new company rather than Baidu.
So in the US, obviously right now, the two biggest players in AI are not new, they're not startups, they're Microsoft and Google.
But OpenAI is doing pretty well.
Yeah, but do you think that'll be true in China too? That
I think
the war chest is so big for the big players?
Very, very good question. And I think that's a very good strategy question. I think there are some opportunities for new startup to emerge on the consumer side, but the majority of benefits of generative AI would be appropriated by those existing kind of big players, incumbents like WeChat, like Taobao, like Baidu. But I'm optimistic that some new virtual system will emerge and will doing well. But on the enterprise side, I think there are also very big opportunities. And I think for Indonesia, I think a big opportunity is for the talents and companies on the consumer side, like Tokopedia, like Gojek, like Dana, and all type of company, to empower their digital capability on traditional sectors, like energy, like natural resource, and so on and so forth. And in China, we already see that type of trends in cloud computing, right? Digital transformation of agriculture, digital transformation of manufacturing. And the magnitude of impact, AI impact on the traditional sector could be like 10th of the magnitude of pure consumer sector. And I think that type of combination could be also very beneficial and could empower some, like the new type of inclusive growth. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got lots of people in the audience. I want to start engaging you now and pivot the conversation on the stage with a show of hands question. How many of you are interested in the business opportunities that AI might generate? Big hands up, I can't see them otherwise. So that's a minority of people in the room. Let me ask the second question. How many of you are worried about what AI might mean for employment or what it might mean to be human? So we've got business opportunity on one side. Who's worried about the societal dislocations of AI? Hands, show of hands again. So pretty balanced, I think, between the two. Now, you're all tech-forward people. How do you, we go back to you, Herman, are you worried about, well, let's talk at the corporate level first. with AI, do you employ fewer people, more people, the same number of people? Are you worried about what's going to happen to the future of work in Indonesia? I know, it's a very young population. Everyone wants to invest in human capital, but are you worried that the AI is going to wipe out jobs?
I think, first of all, we should really look at, sometimes we are actually looking at AI as if it's a new business or a new industry. For me, AI is a technology. It's a technology that enables something. Sometimes it's very interesting that people want to put AI and find a sexy, industry, right? But truthfully speaking, I think we can put AI in every industry. AI is going to supercharge and helps your whatever that you want to do in a more productive and effective way. I'll give an example. Say, for example, as I mentioned before, we basically a marketplace that actually connects hundreds of millions of users with different persona, different stage of life and everything else. We are connecting as well with 1.8 billion product in our ecosystem, right? Then when you say, for example, when you try to find the word, for example, iPhone, for example, right? How do we make sure that we actually connected correctly? In the traditional technology, if I go back to my CS 101 back in 1998, no such thing as AI. It's all about how do you create a matching system and everything, indexing and everything. That will not work anymore. Let's take it a bit further, right? Imagine that after I already purchased an iPhone. Imagine that after I look at an iPhone, I browse it around, going back and forth. After 5 minutes, turn out to be Herman is not really, converting on iPhone. Then isn't it amazing if the system will understand a bit? Maybe Herman is really worried with the brand. Maybe we should actually start giving him a look-alike product, right? Maybe you should actually give something else, right?
But this is, I think this is what people who aren't in the tech sector get frustrated by. I ask you a question about employment and you say, oh wow, the technology is so cool.
I will answer the question. I will answer the question. So I think the way I look at it, right? I mean, whether it's going, in my humble opinion, whether you have AI or not AI, the way I look at it is doesn't translating directly or indirectly into whether we're going to employ more people or not. Because when we employ more people or not, that depends on what you want to do in the business, right? Of course, we need, what the AI can do is to improve productivity. Now, granted, if the business is stagnant and the business doesn't actually move anymore, there is no growth anymore, AI, given that productivity will increase, we don't need that many people. However, if we are actually going to the other way around, which is half glass full, maybe we still need the same amount of people, but more productivity.
So I presume, Jennifer, please let's get under the bonnet of your business. I presume you just don't have to have a lot of employees, right? So do you want to, please don't give away any business secrets, but how do you think about this? So I think everyone knows that the debate among economists is very straightforward. The economists say, listen, we've had big technological revolutions in the past. Everyone was worried they were going to kill jobs, and it didn't happen. We had higher quality of life and more employment after. But there's, I think, a reasonable position that says this time it might be different. And so I'm just wondering, if we peek into your business, how important are machines versus humans?
Thanks for the questions. Actually, I can share the answer from another angle because, so
you're not going to tell us either about how many people you employ. I love it. Yeah.
So the ways actually before, I think I shared the same pain with Herman before. It's like really when we hire a local engineer in Indonesia, it's hard. Actually, we outsource a lot of coding in India and also China. It's not like we're actually taking local jobs. Actually, we need to building the R&D center out of Indonesia. But you can imagine now, because most people before you need to chase a lot of legacy to learn all the coding skill before. Right now, you drag back to the same line. Means everybody learn the new AI technology. You can do the prompt engineer from zero. So the students in US, in China, and here, you can start doing prompt engineer and start coding, which is a dramatic opportunity for boost up talents, especially IT talents here. That's my angle to answer this.
No, I think, I think that, that makes perfect sense to me, right? If you're investing in human capital today, you would we would give people the skills to be able to take advantage of AI. But the point you made about BPO, back office stuff, is so interesting to me. I was in India recently, and I kept getting asked all these AI questions, and I didn't really get where the questions were coming from until I realized that in India, people are worried that the entire BPO industry is just going to get wiped out. Maybe in a country like Indonesia, you can leap over that phase, right, and go straight to the technology phase.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually our situation now. Yeah.
And so, Tianchi, let me bring the additional question about what a government's going to do about AI, right? So in the US now, all the big tech companies go to Washington and they hold hands and they say, yes, we're going to regulate AI. I know this is happening in China. My concern would be that the regulation is really going to stifle innovation. So do you think, I mean, how do you think about that balance between sort of appropriate societal regulation and letting the innovators innovate? And what's the perspective in China? I know that, you know, on the one hand, the Chinese government wants to be at the tech forefront. On the other hand, they're talking a lot of regulation about AI.
Yeah, so I think this new generation of generative AI is different. I think it's not only, I call the nature of this generative AI technology is both productivity gain and also disruption of the kind of ecosystem, how information, how service, how goods are connected to the consumers. And it is also trained on certain like database, the LLM are also trained on certain data, right? So in some way, it has its own ideology based on the type of data you put in.
Certainly, you know, that was a really interesting, the stories are coming out now about ChatGPT that say that there was a lot of experimentation in the background when...
About what data to put in?
Well, no, but what the model produced, it was producing a lot of antisocial stuff that had to be weeded out of the model.
Exactly, and that's the, back to your question, that's kind of some of the key consideration behind the regulation. So any consumer-facing generative AI technology are heavily looked into because of that type of consequence. And I think the other consideration behind generative AI is really to employment, as you mentioned. And but I think the question is really how to foster such innovation ecosystem of generative AI with the consideration of both security risk and also the employment consequence. And I see both US and China are kind of carefully kind of testing water and navigating that. But I think it will still be at least 6 months or more to see how it will unfold. But we can see, and I think it will be unfold through some kind of licensed entry, meaning some companies will get the green light first, let's say Baidu, or like Taobao, or a few of them. Then they would test water, and then would see more and more, like more and more startups getting licensed under this. But I think the overall, the positive benefits of generative AI will far outweigh the negative consequence because of the productivity gain, right? And back to your employment question, I think human will still be the architect. I concur with Herman's comments. And I think it is the education that requires more innovation, more transformation to focus on the creative spirit of human, right? Instead of like in Indonesia, in Asian, in China, I think a lot of the education is focused on help students answer the question right. But I think the education should move towards more and more towards how to ask the right question, right? So you need to like, I think that is the impact of generative AI.
I mean, so that's a fascinating one for anybody who's in education at the moment. Do we try to sort of hold back the dam and have people do essays and exams in blue books, or do we make them super users, right? And I think we're all going to move in the super user direction. And certainly for a place like Marshall, I think it's a real comparative advantage for us. We've talked up here for a while. I know people have been sitting for a long time. Do we have mics in the room? I wonder if anyone has questions for our panelists. Hard for me to see. Do we have a mic, or should somebody shout out a question? Is anyone old enough to remember Phil Donahue? I could sprint down Hosoto and give you the mic. Let me do that.
So about 10 years ago, there were books that were written about who is going to win the AI leads. Is it China or is it America? What is your comment on that?
Could you repeat the question?
Who's going to win? Is China going to win, or is the US going to win, or somebody else? Are emerging markets going to win?
I think my short answer, my very neutral and official answer is they are different, and it will complement each other.
This is such a political everyone is
no,
so
seriously.
diplomatic.
Let me elaborate, because I'm actually writing a piece on this. I think the OpenAI and Microsoft and Google, they are more and more doing the moonshot, right? With tens of thousands of NVIDIA GPUs, right? If you look at OpenAI, they're thinking of how to train the LLM with over 100,000 NVIDIA GPU connected together.
No one had ever heard of NVIDIA, and now it's the most valuable company in the world.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I think Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's vision is to advance the frontier of scientific research, right? Make LLM not only writing emails, writing like TikTok, making TikTok videos, like writing all those things, but really advance physics, material science, medical, healthcare, right? But if you look at the focus of Chinese companies, most of them are focused on applications, right? Focused on, also I think Indonesia, I think focused on consumer products, right? Focused on new type of like innovative products. And also because of the US-China geopolitical tension, NVIDIA cannot offer GPU at a massive scale to China, right? So I think it will be different, right? If I have to answer it, like they would have different focus, just like the previous generation of consumer internet, right? The Great Wall divided the two, and within the Great Wall, internet Great Wall, the Baidu, Taobao, and so on.
This is back to the deglobalization, globalization. The US explicitly is saying it wants to choke off advanced technology innovation in China, and if you can't get the chips, right, you can't do the work. So I'm wondering, Jennifer and Herman, so we've got these two 10-ton gorillas, the United States and China, that have obviously been dominant in so many sectors. Is the AI world creating opportunities for other players that aren't in the US and China to become global leaders? What do you think?
I think it's not for the global leader, but like more localization level. Like, I think actually it's not US-China wing, it's the user wings because you have much powerful tools actually operating and reorganizing your business. So I guess the fundamental what I find is like, one side is a moonshot, as Sean mentioned. And the second part is like really it's enable your daily person and daily enterprise owners can feel how useful it is. So like, I think like, for all the emerging countries, I think like, quickly adapt AI and technology and find the use cases and finish the last mile gap of AI adoption is the biggest opportunity for all the people sit here. Yeah.
So Herman, I mean, Indonesia is north of 250 million people, Southeast Asia 700 million. Do you have the ambition to be the dominant regional player? Are you worried about other people coming in from the US or China?
I think we have to win, right? I think we have to win this battle. I think the next panel, if I'm not mistaken, is about 2045 Indonesia Emas. Is a very aggressive goal. 100 years we become developed market. So that requiring us to basically push hard. So I think going back again, Pa, if I can answer it as well, it's very similar to what Professor Sun and Jennifer basically mentioned. When I look at US, there are a lot of nitty-gritty, intricate foundational part on making AI faster, better. One of the problem with the Gen AI right now is expensive. I want to make it very clear. Very, very expensive, right? I think there are a lot of the work that's actually being done with NVIDIA, with Intel, with AMD, and actually to make it even more cheaper and more affordable for everyone. I think for that, I have to say that US is a bit more on the leading edge for that. But when you talk about application on using AI, I call it applied AI, China is amazing. When you look at the China product, for example, the way they do personalization, hyper-personalization, that is just so amazing. I think Indonesia, we are actually quite lucky because we have both US and China as an example. For example, for me, when we're actually doing LLM, right, there are a lot of options. We can use ChatGPT, kita juga bisa pakai Google Bard, we can actually use Facebook also going out with something, Amazon doing out something. I also heard that some of the China company also doing some LLMs as well. So it's like, you know what? Why don't we use it? And we basically just apply it because there are too many localization user problem that I think we can actually solve immediately by using China or US LLMs or AI.
Perfect. Another question from the audience. I'm happy to run a microphone out if we need to do that. I don't see a hand though. Anyone want to ask our panelists a question? I'm getting blinded by the light here. By the way, that's an old Bruce Springsteen song.
Yes.
There is a, where is...
Hi. Yes. Hello. Welcome back, Jeff. My name is Hendra. I'm more concerned about the effect of AI on NI, natural intelligence, because more and more of people are now relying on AI. And at the same time, there's a book on the end of knowledge. And I would be interested to see how the panel responds. Thank you.
So I think that this is the big, broad question about AI acting like humans, AI debasing humanity. The machines are going to run the world, singularity. All of that stuff. So clearly, lots and lots of people in society are really worried about this. What do you all think? How can you assuage concerns about, obviously the word intelligence is something that we used to associate with humans and now we associate with machines. How do you allay the concerns of people who are really worried about what's going to be left for humans? I don't know who wants to go first on that topic.
Let me try to, as a professor, let me try to take this hard question for it to get some time. So I'm optimistic, and I always try to think about the positive side of technology and on how to create value. I think AI and generative AI and all those virtual assistants would help us kind of focus on the most creative jobs, right? And help us do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? Let's say yesterday when we were chatting with Paboy, we talked about the coal mine, right? And a lot of those AI could be serve as truck drivers at those extreme environment in future. And if you think about programming, human could focus on the 10% architect job, right? And allow AI to do the 90% time-consuming, tedious.
So you're on the efficiency side, but I'm sure lots of people are worried about ethics and morality and culture and all of that stuff. Is there, right? It's the core humanity things that people worry about. That this is the dystopian view that AI is going to destroy all of that. You want to take a crack at this?
I think the way I look at it is we should not make AI as a master, right? I really like what Professor Sun basically mentioned. It's a great virtual assistant. I think when we set up our business, when we set up our stuff, we need to make sure that AI is not your master. I'll give an example. Recently, one of the biggest challenge in AI, not only just security and also cost, but also what we call hallucination. What is hallucination? Hallucination means that it's either, especially with the new generative things, it's actually giving you misinformation, wrong information, or incorrect information, or biased information. I think this is where if we just blindly rely on AI, it's like you're blindly asking your car to drive, right? I think there is no autonomous vehicle company that says, oh, don't worry, you can sleep in the back and you can just ask him to drive. They always say precautionally, you still need to be on driver's seat. It can help you. So I think very similar, Pak. For example, in my team, I'm a bit worried, to be honest. I'm actually in the brink of, I know you're very excited now. When you say, oh, Herman is worried. Yay, this is exciting. I think one of the excitement recently with the engineer is the creation of this called a GitHub Copilot, where people can, the thesis is that, oh, just say you want to create a function that does ABC. Boom. The
It's
code is
amazing.
there.
I was looking at this in real time.
Exactly, right? But truthfully speaking, when we are actually doing the POCs and everything else, it's not as glorious and glamorous as that. There are a lot of mistakes here and there. Complex integration, it will not understand. Small localization does. Gitu. But one of my biggest worry is how do I make sure that when I give it to my engineers, they are not becoming too dependent, aka, for the lack of better terms, lazy. Because if that is the case, then we are doomed, right? But imagine that, like what Professor Sun said, if we can actually use those tools to do 80, 70% of the mundane tasks, and then you are still there to look at the, oh, it doesn't wire like this, is better like this, or I think that is the perfect thing.
Yeah, I think AI can make human more human, right? Just makes human do what we should do, right? That's my point.
Yeah, and I'm with you. By the way, I'm on the optimist side of this equation, but I understand people who are worried.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. I don't know where the mic has moved. Is there anyone who would like to bring a new topic to the panel? Or is it time for us to have a break? Would you like me to run a mic to you?
Yeah.
There's one coming from behind.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, for the company that want to implement...
Can you hold the mic a little closer to your mouth?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to ask you, for the company that want to apply AI in their business, what will be your suggestion for them to start with? And what kind of people that are needed to implement an AI strategy in terms of their background of education or experiences?
Oh, recently I pick a lot of questions like that. Yeah, so I think there is two things you can suggest. One I will suggest from the use case, simple, easy use cases. I heard Herman actually starting from building the LM from the HR policy, procedures. I think you can split out some of the productivity questions first. Then you can actually lock down some of the scenario and scope to try AI. So you can see how the starting with. And second one, the question really come to how the, after you have one thing, who gonna be a driver in your company to monitor and the whole projects. I think currently you can go with your current, we call it subject expertise in your company, which is actually business owner. We can actually starting with that. But later we'll bring more I think we can start and train some people from the IT or technology background, drive into them to understand product better. Then you can setting a whole AI strategy from different department and different use cases. Yeah.
Yeah, mungkin add a bit from Jennifer. An area that is quite mundane and quite repetitive and regular, in which that normally if we rely on human, sometimes there are a lot of human mistake, human error here and there. This is where the power of technology can do, because it actually can do the scaling. So the HR part definitely, so instead of asking HR, then you can basically ask basic HR rule book to someone, right? Another things for example, hey, how do you sell stuff at Tokopedia, right? Can I sell this? Can I sell that? Normally, you have to go to a certain location and look at the rule book. Those kind of things that you can, those mundane, regular tasks that is very common.
Of course, what you're calling mundane, we used to call being an accountant or being a lawyer. So there are certainly a lot of white-collar, right? So it's two sides of this. On the one hand, it's great. You don't need the accountant or the lawyer anymore. You can do it yourself.
But it will not replace fully. It will not replace fully. It will make the account payable team better, more effective, more relevant.
So I think everyone's been very politely sitting here for a couple of hours now. According to my clock, we're at the end of this session, and I think we're going to have the next panel in about 15 minutes. Could you join me in thanking our panelists for this great session on AI?
And thank you. Let's give a big round of applause to Dean Garrett for his role. Please kindly remain on stage for our speakers and moderator. For Professor Tian Shushun, Miss Jennifer Sang, and Mr. Herman, please kindly return to the stage as we will have our token and appreciation moment. Miss Jennifer. We kindly request our speaker and Dean to remain on stage. Now we invite Brian Lee, Chris Wadwani, and Tanner Thompson to join us on stage to present the token of appreciation to our moderator and speaker. Let's show our gratitude and appreciation for their valuable contribution to the insightful panel session. And let's take a moment of photo. Dean Garrett, please remain on stage after this, where we will continue guiding us for our second panel discussion. As for Professor Tian Shu, Miss Jennifer Zhang, and Mr. Herman, you may return to your seat. Well, Trojans, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first panel discussion on the future of AI and business. Before we move on to our second panel, we would like to inform you that coffee and snacks are available. Coffee are available at the foyer area and snacks are available at the side ballroom area in front of the ESC booth. However, we will have a 15 minutes break before we continue to our second panel session of the Sustainable Growth Path Towards Indonesia Emas 2045. Let's take our moment to enjoy our networking and coffee break. Thank you. This is our second panel of Sustainable Growth Path Towards Indonesia Emas 2045. We hope that you enjoy your coffee and snacks as we have new energy to start our second panel of the day. As we approach the golden generation of 2045, it is crucial to assess our preparedness for this milestone, the path towards sustainable growth with a focus on human capital and the environment is utmost significance. Join us as industry leaders propose innovative solutions to address this critical issue. Let's collaborate on the journey to attain sustainable growth as we head towards Indonesia Emas 2045. Let us start our second session led by our Dean Garrett. Back to you, Dean Garrett. Give a big round of applause to our Dean Garrett. So Trojans, I already have Dean Garrett on the stage. So I would like to kindly please you to take your seat. Then we will start our second panel of the day. Kindly please, ladies and gentlemen, have a seat.
We'll try to get started in a couple of minutes. Everyone got so quiet. Thank you. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to sit down. Thank you. So I think all the Indonesians in the room know that the government has established very ambitious targets for Indonesia for the centenary of the country in 2045. But it's not only about growth, it's about inclusivity, about equity, and about sustainability. And that's what our panel conversation this afternoon is going to be about. I mentioned in my introductory remarks that Goldman Sachs is now projecting that Indonesia will be the #4 economy in the world by 2050. And I think that's something that people outside of this region probably don't know. They don't know that Indonesia has been growing so rapidly, and they also don't know that this country hopes to transition away from being a traditional raw material producer and exporter to being more sustainable, to being greener, and to being higher skilled. So this is a very important topic for us at the Marshall School. We have a sustainable and inclusive growth initiative, and a lot of that work is going to be done on the ground in emerging markets, including in Indonesia. The second thing I wanted to mention that I briefly mentioned before is we're also going to announce next month in September an energy transition initiative at the school that I think is going to be incredibly important. So this is a great topic for us, and we have a fantastic panel here today to talk about this. And I know everyone's so excited to see old friends and make new friends in the audience. I hope we can focus a little bit on the classroom part for the next hour and a little bit, and then we'll be in the social hour and the party can begin. So let me begin by introducing our panelists. So, Pak Kusodo, you're first. As I think everyone knows, Pak Kusodo is the chairman of the Gunung Sewu Group, which has 3 very large lines of business, Sequus in insurance and financial services, the Great Giant Foods Company, end-to-end, biggest pineapple producer in the world, and Farpoint, which manages both landmark buildings in Jakarta, but also has built some incredible buildings, including the Sequus headquarters where I was recently. So Pak Kusodo is here with us. In addition to the corporate side, I think many of you also know that Pak Kusodo has been very important philanthropically and in the social sector, including the Jakarta Property Institute, with a mission to make Jakarta more livable, and Endeavor Indonesia, which is supporting high-impact entrepreneurs. And in addition to being a proud member of YPO, Pak Kusodo is an even prouder alum of USC and the Marshall School. And I hope you all know that earlier this year, Pak Kusodo was awarded the highest honor at USC for an Asian alumnus. So welcome and thank you. Halim Silva is here. I saw you. Also a proud USC Marshall alum from the class of 1991. She's managing director of Mandiri Sekuritas, which has been transformed into Indonesia's leading investment bank. And prior to Mandiri Sekuritas, Silva worked at many global iconic financial institutions, including Citibank, Macquarie, and IMG Barings. Thanks for being here today. Last but not least, I saw Raju Munasamy is with us. He is a policy manager for the Sustainable Development Working Group in the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, a partner and leader for the deals and strategy operations in one of the big 4 firms in Indonesia, and he also served as the policy manager for the B20 Finance and Infrastructure Task Force last year. Over 30 years in strategic planning and business development, including working for McKinsey. He has a Harvard MBA. We won't hold that against you, but I know everyone's proud that you're also a Viterbi alum. So fight on and welcome. Okay, so Hakusoto asked me to see if we could make this panel a little more comparative and contextual and not just an Indonesia story. So I'm going to ask the first question of Silva, which is that, you know, what people outside Indonesia know about Indonesia is that it's a commodity superpower, but people think about that in more traditional industries and industries that are viewed as having negative environmental consequences, coal, palm oil, etc. But the big ambition now in Indonesia is to do both, is to be an energy superpower, but to be in more sustainable energy. And clearly nickel has become the big topic. So could you give us your perspective on, I guess it's the energy transition, the big energy transition aspirations of Indonesia?
Thank you, Dean Garrett. Yes, I think the government nickel downstreaming initiative has been very successful. We have seen since the start of the program, we have seen many foreign investors investing into nickel smelters in Indonesia, both nickel for stainless steel production as well as for HPAL for battery. So we actually have seen FDI for base metal amounting to 25 billion in the last 3 years. And what is more important is that we have seen a significant increase in nickel downstream product export from Indonesia. So in 2014, nickel downstream product export was only $2 billion. Last year, it was $33 billion, over 33 billion. That's an increase of almost 15-fold. But I think what is even more important is that because of the strong export, our current account balance last year was actually surplus, 1% of GDP, whereas previously we always have a current account deficit. And the impact is that I think all of us remember, whenever there was a sell-off in emerging market currency, rupiah is always one of the first to depreciate or to weaken. But in this crisis, in the pandemic crisis, actually rupiah has held up very well, partly thanks to the benefit from nickel downstreaming and structural reform in our current account balance.
So the macroeconomic indicators are incredibly strong, and certainly the fact that, as you said, that the rupiah has held up is really impressive and stands out from an external perspective. But my understanding of the nickel ambitions now are to move downstream into production, including batteries and electric vehicles, and up in terms of skills and technology. So what's your perspective on that? What's the timeline for that? Does it require foreign investment? Does it require foreign players? Or can this be done more indigenously?
Definitely, we will need foreign investors or foreign players because we need the technology. So I think the government has this ambition to continue to expand into EV ecosystem, into battery production. And we know that government is actually talking or in discussion with many different foreign companies like CATL, LG, also talking to Tesla if there is any chance.
It's happening today, right?
So the discussion is actually ongoing. So hopefully we can even expand more into more downstream products and capture the benefit from this transition into electric vehicle. After all, Indonesia has a big auto market, whereby currently EV penetration is still very, very small, much smaller than our neighboring countries.
But I see the Hyundai Ioniq on the street a little bit here. Do you think that's going to, when it comes to electric vehicles, do you think that'll be the case, that there'll be assembly of foreign-made cars here, or are there going to be, will there be development of an indigenous industry? What's your expectation? I know it's hard to project forward.
Yes, I think we have seen lots of Hyundai Ioniq, but for the average Indonesian, Hyundai Ioniq is still expensive. Yes, it's still too expensive. So we also have lower price EV car, which is Wuling. But the size is rather small for Indonesian taste. Indonesian has big family, we like bigger car actually. So I think among the automakers, we probably still need a model that fits Indonesian use. But definitely I am sure if Tesla doesn't think Indonesia is attractive enough, I am sure that the other automakers, EV producers would find Indonesia an attractive market because we have a big population and big auto needs or car needs. After all, this year we are reaching GDP per capita of $5,000, and that usually there will be inflection point when you hit $5,000 in terms of consumer purchasing.
So Raju, let me bring you into the conversation. What's next? I mean, the other commodity that I've been hearing a lot about is bauxite into aluminum. That's obviously very energy intensive. Is that going to be next for Indonesia? I know that Kalimantan is an obvious location. What's your perspective on other minerals beyond nickel?
Thank you, Dean Garrett, and thank you for having me. Thank you to the Aussie and Marshall Business School. I think I would like to stick a little bit on what next in terms of nickel, because I think we are ignoring a big part of the nickel ecosystem. First is, I think the sustainable way for this is obviously, we are still very early in the value chain of nickel. We are talking about smelting. There are a lot more to come, whether it's the cathode, for example, the battery cell, even including finally the EV manufacturing and the recycling. So there's going to be value addition along the way that we have not really put a lot of thought. On the other hand, we have to realize that nickel is not the only thing that is involved in this chain. Tesla, for example, just announced that they are going with lithium ferro phosphate for all the basic cars. It has no nickel in it, right? So if you can...
This is a win for Australia, right? We have lots of lithium, so...
So if you can live with lower battery density and not covering a long distance, then you don't have to go with the nickel manganese cobalt or the nickel aluminum cobalt. You can get done with others, and then the newest technology, which is the sodium, right? Using salt as a battery. It's the cheapest, but the density is also low. So again, there's going to be different application. On the other hand, we are also ignoring the fact that this is not just, battery is not just for EV, right? Battery is also for, if you talk about renewable energy, you need all these power banks, 200 megawatts power bank, 500 megawatt power banks to keep, we are not even exploring that yet. So according to me, it's still wide open. And I think we are in the right direction. The question is technology and financing.
So back to your electric vehicles story, what I've been told that weight is obviously a very important issue in EVs, and you can reduce the weight by having aluminum cars, not steel-based cars. Is that the next big thing in Indonesia? I mean, obviously you've had lots of bauxite for a long time, exporting a lot of it.
Yeah. So a little bit different with bauxite. I think it's the same direction, but it has to be different strategy. With nickel, there's a clarity of having the largest reserve. Indonesia's bauxite reserve, I think it's only 4% Australia has about 20%. So trying to, in bauxite, I would say it's a defensive strategy. In nickel, it's aggressive growth strategy. Because with bauxite, if you don't stop this ore export, you may not have that ore to support your EV, to support your other industries. That's why you need to do this. You need to stop the ore so that the industry can be built, and then there's going to be, aluminum. Right? And don't forget throughout all this, this is not just for EV. There are so many applications, right?
I mean, the point you made about storage is incredibly important, and maybe we'll come back to that. Pakusoto, let me bring you to the conversation. I mean, if we think about the normal sustainable story, Indonesia gets criticized for agriculture, right? For chopping down trees, palm oil, all that stuff. But I know you think that there's a win-win here, that you can have sustainable agriculture in Indonesia. Do you want to talk a little bit about, I mean, not only what you're doing, but what the opportunities are? Because, it's still a reality, right? In a country at this level of development, most people derive their income from the land, not from anything else.
Yeah, so the prerequisite of agriculture, food, and production of food is actually water. Water consumption for agricultural production is about 70% of every water consumed by human. So where we are in Indonesia is that we have lots of water. We have lots of rainfall. And we also have a lot of populations. And our land are fertile. So there is no reason why Indonesia cannot be and should not be like the food production of the world. And I think we have done a few of that. I mean, personally, my family has been doing pineapples, and the concept of sustainability is actually we should solve sustainability that is economically viable. So we can't solve sustainability when economically not viable. And actually also the way we think about sustainability is actually a self-interest. So the self-interest, if you are thinking on a long term, not 10 years, but 50 years, you need to have a concept of how could I be doing this business for the next 50, 100 years. If that is the mindset, then sustainability will come into play. And as an example, is that in the old days, we would use groundwater, and we still do, by the way, but it was like 5-meter deeps, and then over 30 years, it is 30 meters deep, and it just cost more to do. So as a solution, we experimented building lagoon. As a small lagoon, we harvest rain, we capture that we can use those water to irrigate during the dry season. So that is a solution that we are not going to be forever relying on the groundwaters, which is going to be costing more and more to pump the water up. So those are there are many examples that we do, but I think the most example that I can describe in a short period of time is that.
Perfect. So the second topic I wanted to address with you all is about infrastructure more generally. I know that's been an incredibly high priority for the Jokowi government. You see the projects in Jakarta, but I wanted I want to get your broader perspective on how it's going. So maybe I start with you, Silva. You know, again, I'm a proud Australian. I know Macquarie has done a lot of public-private infrastructure partnerships around the world, but my understanding is not so many in Indonesia. What's your assessment of where the infrastructure projects are at? And I know there's been a lot of Chinese investment. Is there other foreign investment that's required or that's here already? Could you give us a sort of broad perspective on the infrastructure agenda?
I think infrastructure is definitely a big achievement of President Jokowi's administration, especially during his first term as president. He has been focusing a lot and spending a lot on infrastructure. So the government basically increased infrastructure spending from previous administration. I think it's about 8%. During Jokowi's government is about 14%. Now, of course, some of the roads that are built may not have a high traffic, but that's part of government's contribution. And it is not so easy to invite foreign investors because foreign investors would calculate IRR and traffic flow. But I think we have seen that Trans-Java Toll Road, for example, is something that everybody use, and we are very grateful for President Jokowi's administration for building that. Now we can reach city in Central Java with just a quick 5 hours drive, for example. 60% of toll road in Indonesia is actually being built during President Jokowi's administration. I think another important achievement also of President Jokowi is electrification, building power plant in Indonesia. I think electrification, I read somewhere, has reached 99.6% in Indonesia, which means almost all Indonesia can have access to electricity, which is not an easy achievement given that Indonesia sprawled along 17,000 islands in Indonesia. I think it should continue to be the focus of the government come next government.
And just to follow up on infrastructure, you know, one thing, Elon Musk is an amazing person. He's got Starlink. Is satellite infrastructure going to be important for sort of digital Indonesia?
Yeah, definitely. I think satellite, especially given that Indonesia is a big country with lots of islands, and we need that digital connectivity.
So, Hosoto, could I move to you? You created a not-for-profit 10 years ago to make Jakarta more livable. I presume infrastructure was a big part of that story. Does Jakarta feel a better city, a more livable city to you today than it was when you created your organization?
I think so, but Harun now is the chair of Jakarta Property Institute. But the idea.
We can ask him later. Hi, Harun. How are you? Thanks for coming.
Yes. No, the idea is that actually to have a partnership with the government together to build a better city. That was the mission. And so we what
did you start this when President Jokowi was governor here, or did it what? I'm just trying to get the history right.
I think that was Jokowi was governor very brief. It was, I think, set up during his time, but we never had an audience with him. So we had our first audience with the governor is with Ahok. But I mean, no, the mission is to build a better city, and we see hopefully the problem that we see is the same as what the governments see. So we need to have a dialogue with the government. And the idea is that, I mean, city is always now, the concept of urbanization have evolved. The idea now is to have more compact of a city, right? Where people can work, live, and play. There is a concept also of a 15-minute city. So whatever you want to do in your daily life is that 15 minutes, right? So there is that concept. So that's where we want to have a dialogue with the government. If Indonesia is going to be having 20,000 GDP per year, Jakarta would be three times of that, right? So how do we envision ourselves, developers in Jakarta as well as the government in Jakarta, where do we want to see 20 years from now?
So 2 follow-up questions. I love being in big cities, and I always like to walk around in them, particularly when I arrive. It's a good jet lag cure. But Jakarta just feels not walkable to me. Is it possible, and that's a high quality of life story for everyone in the urban environment. Is it going to be possible to make Jakarta more walkable?
So the reason why it's not walkable, because there is the curb is not properly built. If you see today, Jakarta has more curbs, has wider curbs today than say 5-6 years ago. And also one of the prerequisites to people to walk is that the setback, when you have a setback, the setback with the curb must be 0.
Here?
No, that's not the regulation.
Yeah.
The regulation is that the setback is sometimes 12 meters from the road. So in that way, there is really no, the walking experience would be different. I mean, if you are in New York or in Hong Kong, the setback is 0. You walk and there is a shop. So that's where we are. Part of the thing is to promote a walkability in the city.
I would certainly love that. So last Jakarta question, I've learned in the last couple of days about what sounds an ingenious public sector, private sector combination to combat sea level rise and the fact that Jakarta is so low, which is reclaiming these islands and then building roads to them. How worried are you about Jakarta as a sinking city? Is there an Amsterdam kind of solution to build a seawall? How do you feel about that?
No, I think that is a solution, but that's not the whole solution. There's one of the other solution. They call this sinking is subsidence, because what happened is that when you have a lot of population taking groundwaters, then the water level will decrease, like what I was explaining in my plantation. And when you have a lot of population on top of it, then it will sink. But I think the government is, of course, considering of banning using groundwater. But when you ban using groundwater, you have to have pipes water, right? So that's an investment that the city has to make. And it happened, Jeff, by the way, it happened in Tokyo. Tokyo from 1910 to 1965. It's also a certain part of Tokyo, their subsidence level was quite serious, and the water level was down. But they managed to manage it and reverse it, actually. So it's multi-pronged solution. But I still believe Jakarta will be a better city in the next 50 years.
Fantastic. And Tokyo is a fantastic comparison. I didn't realize that on most accounting, Jakarta is now the second largest city in the world after Tokyo. This is just a massive urban agglomeration here. So the flip side of Jakarta is the new capital city. And you've been involved, Raju, in all of these big government kind of infrastructure projects. What's your perspective on how it's going and what the future will look like for, I mean, this is one of the most ambitious projects in history, right? I mean, it's at least as hard as Brasilia, I think, to create a new capital city in Kalimantan.
I think it's hard enough to create any new city.
Brasilia may not be a good example, but anyway.
I'm not sure Brasilia is great. I'm just saying, I mean, when people think about it, right, I mean, that was a long way away. It was very hard to do, but this one looks at least as challenging as that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my thought. Creating a new city by itself is difficult. And you are now looking into a city that it's a future looking. It's being planned even to achieve 2 million people in 2045. Right? So this is a very long haul. There's going to be a lot of growing pains, which we are experiencing right now. For example, inability to get foreign investors to come and so on. But I think those things will get sorted as more confidence, you see reality, and this is where I think the government and the state budget and the SOE's contribution is going to be to have the initial shape that will finally attract the rest.
So back to my Macquarie example, PPP, public-private partnerships, will the new city require a lot of private investment or can it be government-led?
Without trying to divulge more than what I can say, yes, there has to be, in Indonesia I call it KPBU, which is a public-private partnership. Yes, it's required, but at what stage? I think in today's stage, it's not the right time yet, but it will be in 3 years, 4 years, the moment other developments are happening. You can really split this capital development into the government part of it and the infrastructure part of it, the supporting part of it. There are a lot of components of this the new city development, and this is where it's going to happen. The direction of what the city is going to be is also important. I think Indonesia is really trying to make this into a city like no other in the world. It's the concept is with forest. Now I don't know how well it will sell, but definitely if you look at it, I think it's not really something not achievable, but it's going to take a very long term with a lot of growing pains. The key is why a lot of people are a bit hesitating is just because there is a government change coming up. But whatever the next government going to do in the first 3 months, 4 months, that's going to be the one that shaped how interest is going to be for this capital.
Thank you. So let's have another topic on the inclusive growth side, human capital. So again, from an economist perspective, Silva, what's your assessment of human capital in Indonesia today? Where do the investments need to be made? What's the best way to invest in human capital here?
I'm not the expert on human capital, but I think from practical experience, and I think Minister of Education has also been trying to do this, to do reform in our education system. From my practical experience, it's very important to invest in human capital. Especially, we often find a situation whereby we hire people who is university graduate, and yet we need to retrain them, that often they are not ready to go into the workplace because a lot of what they learn is too academic. So I think it is important also for our universities to focus, maybe do more internship, but also focus more on practical aspect, not just...
This is good news for business schools. This is what we do.
Yeah, because that's our experience, that a lot of time we hire people who graduate and yet they're not ready for the workforce.
So, Husoto, what about farmers? So again, for the foreseeable future, agriculture and farmers, small farms have got to be really important part of the economy. I know you're committed to improving their welfare. How do you do that? Do you do it with technology? Do you do it with education? What's the path forward for rural Indonesia?
I don't think we have done very well in that department yet. So I think the main thing is capacity development. The capacity.
Human capacity, physical capacity.
Human capacity, and also the government capacity. Also, how they would be able to train farmers, because we have section in every of the counties, agricultural departments, and in the old days, their job is to train farmers to be a better farmers. And I think what we do, we would try to work with the local government. We have not been very successful yet, but that's an idea. It's an ideation that.
And work with them to create more educational opportunities in remote areas? So.
Not really exactly remote area. So around our surrounding, I mean, we would invite the agriculture department employees to have an externship in our company, say 3 months or so. Once they are better trained, then they can go back to their villages and teach farmers how to be more effective.
So I know we're going to have Minister Nadim will be here tonight. From the government perspective, how do you see the human capital agenda as, I mean, progress made? How far along the path? You were talking about long-term on the capital city. I presume human capital is also a long-term game.
Yeah, I don't think I'm qualified to talk from the government's point of view.
How do you observe the government and not?
But I think let me say what is required. What should they do instead of saying, how they think about it. I think the very first one is to realize that we have both quantity and quality issue. By quantity, I mean our preschool and university enrollment are still way, way below average. Your primary school and up to high school, that's okay. But when you come to preschool and university, definitely it's very low. It's in the 30s. Right? So that's a concern because preschool is really when your cognitive ability is being shaped. The other issue that we have in this is nutrition. Because part of how to get quality is not only the input, but your ability to absorb. And that comes, for example, on the kind of nutrition you have. Indonesia has stunting problem. I think this is quite well known. And that, in fact, will affect the quality of human that you need for the year, for the golden period 2045. The other thing that we really need to focus is how to use digital to help improve the quality of human resource. Now, we are just focusing on education here. We are not talking about much on health side, which is, the other dimension of human quality, right? So you have education, you have health. So all this, I would say we made more progress in the last 4 or 5 years in these two areas compared to that we made, for a very, very long time. So again, I think the direction is correct, but I think fine-tuning will be required. And as I mentioned, focus not just on quality, but also quantity, because otherwise you're going to use your demographic bonus.
Yeah, and when we spoke, you made, I think, a really important point, which is that a demographic bonus of having a young population can turn into a challenge if you don't create productive economic opportunities for young people. So challenge and opportunity. So I have one question for Silva, one question for Pakusoto, and then I'd like to broaden it to questions from the group. So please get ready to engage with our panelists. So a question for you, Silva, is about Chinese investment. Obviously, Chinese FDI has been a big story here, as it has been in many emerging markets. What's your assessment of how well that's worked? You know, we have do the global perspective. There is a view that Chinese investment in Africa was not very well accepted by Africans because the Chinese investment didn't integrate with the local environment. My understanding is that it's been a more collaborative story here, and that not only has Chinese investment been high in an FDI sense, but it's viewed as being very productive. Could you give us your view on that external player?
Yeah, I think the majority of the Chinese investment in Indonesia is in the commodity sector, the mining sector. And in all the investment, there is a local partner. You know, so for example, Jingsan is a big player in nickel downstreaming, but each joint venture will have a different local partner. So that's part of transferring knowledge to the local as well. So the question is, and we are often criticized by the Western countries that a lot of Indonesia FDI is from China, but actually the government opened it up to everyone, but it is the Chinese who take the risk and come invest in Indonesia. Perhaps if I may also ask you, Dean Garrett, why do you think the American or the Western countries are not investing as much as the Chinese in the commodity smelter downstreaming? What it will take for Indonesia to get a higher investment, for example, from the United States?
So we should ask the ambassador that when he comes back for dinner over a drink. But you know, I have a very simple perspective on this, which is not only true in Indonesia, it's certainly true in Africa and other parts of the world, that the Chinese investors tend to take a much longer term time horizon and be quite strategic. Western investors, and particularly American investors, much shorter term time horizon, and they're much more risk averse. And so, you know, I think this is a real challenge for the U.S. And certainly the Biden administration sees that. And for example, they've come up with something that's the equivalent of Belt and Road Initiative. They want to invest in an alternative to the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. But it's just antithetical to a short-term, quarter-to-quarter motive that American companies run by. So I don't think it's going to be easy. I had a meeting this morning with somebody from the Australian embassy, and I was asking, you know, something that Pak Boy and I talked about. Why are the Australian mining companies not investing in Indonesia? And this person from the embassy said, well, you know, this is tricky, right? Because, of course, you know, the Australian miners have got a lot of expertise that would be very helpful here, but they also know if they invest in Indonesia, they're going to undermine the production at home because you bring better technology at lower cost to Indonesia. So I think it's a complicated, somewhat complicated story, but the bottom line I think we see all around the world on Chinese investment, it's just much longer term time horizon. And that helps in emerging markets. You want to weigh in on this topic?
Yeah, can I add to that?
Please.
I think with the Chinese government, there is much more push by the government to the private sector to go outside. Whereas in US, I think it's more policy, but then it's left to the private sector to venture and do what they want. And Western companies typically will have much higher threshold and considerations before they go outside to invest. They probably have a lot of rules of governance, and you know, they'll be looking at so many indicators, and maybe Indonesia doesn't fit there. Whereas a Chinese investors, he probably doesn't go through all that. That makes them easier to come. Now, yeah, granted, they look for more long term, but at the same time, I think China had such a big boom in the 90s and the 2000s, right? And they've done everything they want to do. But they have all the facilities, they have all the resources. What else they can do? They have to go outside China. So it's become a natural. That's not the case with the United States or any other Western countries.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. And certainly, it is remarkable just how good Chinese infrastructure is and how quickly they developed it. So of course that becomes an export industry. It makes perfect sense. So last big topic for you, Pakusoto, is about net zero. I know you're a committed environmentalist. You want to make everything in Indonesia more sustainable, but you were saying to me that you think it's a little bit unfair of the West to be asking emerging markets to forego the traditional energy route that that the West built through the Industrial Revolution. So how do you think Indonesia should navigate the sort of global sustainability politics going forward?
Well, before I answer that question, I want to continue what
all right.
Raju was saying. And what Silva was talking earlier. Indonesia economic weaknesses in the past is that current account deficit and also budget deficits, because the tax ratio, the tax income does not compensate with the infrastructure or the expenses that we are going to build. But the nickel, the mining strategy of downstreaming, that actually changed the whole structure on our economy. And I think the structure now, in the past is that high interest rate because of current account deficit, low foreign exchange, our currency is always subject to weaknesses when there is things. So this downstreaming strategy that the Jokowi government has managed to do is actually change the structure of the economy.
Which should make it more attractive to Western investors.
Which is, so we will foreseeably that we'll have a stronger rupiah, we have a lower interest rate, that will fuel domestic consumption, and hopefully that will, when project IRR, it used to be like unit 15 or 16, it will be satisfied at 11 because the policy rate suddenly becomes lower. So I think this downstreaming strategy in Indonesia is very, very important. And when you go back to America, right, is that it's very important for Indonesia. This strategy has to be successful. Otherwise, our economic structure cannot be in proper order, right? So we need friends like America to support the success of these initiatives. So I just, because you may be our ambassador in LA.
So I was, just on that topic,
yeah.
I was, this Australian person in the embassy I had breakfast with this morning was telling me that his biggest goal is to get Australian superannuation funds to invest in Indonesia. And he was saying that the macro environment now makes that much more realistic, the macro environment in Indonesia, much more realistic than it was even 5 years ago. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, but perhaps also if I can add and highlight one thing to you. This Fed rate hike is very sharp, a 525 basis point increase over a short period of time. In the past, Indonesia will have to hike interest rate more than the Fed rate hike just to stabilize, to ensure a stable currency. This time around, we only hike 225 basis points.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Less than half of what the Fed hiked. and yet we have abundant liquidity in the banking system, inflation is under control. So yes, definitely our macro economic outlook, and as Pak Husodo rightly pointed out again, the structural reform in our current account deficit, partly thanks to the nickel downstreaming, has changed the macro outlook of Indonesia, and that is probably something that some foreigners may have missed.
Okay, so
back to net
can
zero.
we go net zero now? Okay.
Back to
This
net
is
zero.
last question among the panel. Questions, get ready in the audience.
So, I mean, we all have no disagreement that the world is becoming hotter. You know, if we want...
This is the hottest month on record, right? In
Yeah,
human history.
if we want to save our children, our children's, we have to work together to reduce the climate to 1.5 degree. I think there is no disagreement in terms of big objective. However, the issue is that when countries like Indonesia that is emerging, and we need to be held to the same standard as Sweden, that is very, very painful. The Swedes can pay, the American can pay for the transition, but most of Indonesians are living from hand to mouth. You know, if they have to adopt as quickly, it is going to be very, very painful, right? So the data is showing that America is about 15 tons per capita, and Europe is maybe 13 or 12 tons per capita. China is about 9 tons per capita. Indonesia is like 2.1, 2.4. If we are asked to commit a 20% reduction, like across the boards, America reduced 20%, Indonesia reduced 20%, our 20% is equal to 0.4, right? And if America from 15, just at 0.2%, it's equal to the whole reduction that we do. So I mean, there is no disagreement. It's just how do we get there as a world citizen, how do we work together? Can we do it without penalizing our people?
Yeah, I think this fairness point has always been there, and people in the West tend not to want to accept it, right? But it's a very powerful point. Did you want to weigh in on net zero?
Well, I think let's put it this way. I think today Indonesia is ranked number 6 when it comes to emission. If we in 2045 can become the 4th largest economy and remain number 6 as an emitter, I think we are a winner. Right? And let's not forget this. Emission does not know boundaries. Right? So Singapore can say they want to be net zero in 2035. Well, if your neighbors are still producing emission, you are still going to feel that. This is not like exporting and importing product where you can stop, right? So emission control is the world problem. It's not one country's problem. So you all have to work together if you want to really achieve that.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Okay, so we have time for a few questions. Do I see someone with a microphone in the audience?
Hi.
Yes, hey, how are you?
Hello, Sir Jeffrey, Sir Husodo, Sir Raju, and Ms. Silva. Nice to meet you. I'm Rochelle Lim, a 19-year-old from Loyola Marymount University, and I'm so honored to meet you here today. I just wanted to ask Sir Raju something. So I've specifically actually looked into your profile and see that you're specialized in ESG value creation. And so I actually took interest since I recently traveled to South Korea and Japan to actually learn about global corporate sustainability. and from conglomerate companies like LG and Panasonic, was able to talk to the directors there. And so I wanted to ask, while working in consulting, jumping from Boston to Jakarta, and now also in PwC, I was wondering if you could share some insights for the most effective way to motivate companies, because to continue to push these ESG values, it's been hard to justify this because it's not too great to measure profitability from. Thank you.
I think the question was just, the core element was the ESG agenda. You keep pushing it, keeps being expensive. How do you motivate companies to, how does one motivate companies to keep the eye on the ball when it comes to ESG?
Well, I think this becomes a very corporate question. Well, the thing is, what you do right today, what you do correctly today may not be what you do correctly tomorrow. We tend to learn from other countries or other corporations who's done well. And then that's where the benchmarking, the best practices, and transfer of technology, transfer of skill takes place. But I think if you want to make a differentiation, if you want to move to a different level, you need to start innovation. You cannot just be trying to copy. You need to start with innovation. I think that's the path that you want to look at for sustainability. Did I answer your question? I really didn't.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
And I think, that strikes me as being a really important observation, because my broader perspective on sustainability is it's gone from government mandates and government regulation to private sector innovation as being the biggest engine of change. So the private sector goes from being the problem, part of the problem, to part of the solution.
But let's not forget, why do we talk about sustainability? We talk about sustainability because we want to be human to be sustainable. It's not the environment, right? But everybody seems to be focused on environment. But actually, the actual objective of doing sustainability is that human can live longer, healthier, blah, blah, blah.
Agreed. Okay, has the mic traveled somewhere else in the room?
Hi, my name is Jenny. I would like to ask regarding the batteries for the electrical vehicles. I read that there's a lifetime of 10 to 20 years for the battery. So how efficient is that? And besides, after that, you have to dispose of it? Is that true?
So this is a great, are you hearing the question? So I'm a proud owner of 2 electric vehicles, and I worry about this, that the electric vehicle batteries decay like all other batteries decay, and we don't have a good solution to what we're going to do with the products. I mean, recycling is incredibly difficult. So I think this is a sort of informed skepticism about electric vehicles as the solution. I don't know whether anyone wants to react to that.
That's part of the value chain of the entire nickel to battery to recycling, right? So there will be a business doing recycling, whether it's,
But it's not economically viable at the moment, right? To the best of my understanding.
It will get worse before it gets better, right? I mean, even today, if you talk about the nickel industry, it's not green nickel. It's still coming from coal power. But eventually, it's going to move to the direction. Same thing with the battery. I mean, you're talking about plastic waste today, right? The effect of 50, 60 years of development. And we are finding a solution for that. I think the good thing here is that you've gone through that experience of how to manage waste in petrochemical, that you'll start plan ahead on how to manage waste that comes from the battery. I'm sure there are corporations who are already innovating and finding ways to do that. We are just not seeing it. But I think it's good to have already have that experience.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Okay, for the manufacturing of the batteries, is it true that you still need coal to manufacture that?
You need power.
Right?
Power, yeah.
You need power. Now, it's your decision where you want to get the power, right?
But for efficiency-wise, is it still coal?
Well, eventually you have to be green. Eventually you will need renewables as the source of power to produce not just a battery, but start from the smelting, the cathode, the battery, etc., etc. But you have to start somewhere, right? Whether you start with the chicken first or with the egg first.
Yeah.
So in this case, start smelting first, use the coal power, and eventually replace it.
Just a layman question. For coal, since they always say that there's pollution and whatnot, why not just grow more trees? It's just carbon dioxide in and oxygen out, right? Isn't it?
I'm not a technical expert, but I don't know how many million trees you have to plant to recover the emission from 1 ton of
You
coal.
have to, USC alum Mark Benioff, he's got this initiative to plant, I think it's in the billions of trees around the world as part of the solution to this problem. But back to the spirit of this question is we use a lot of energy to create renewable things. I don't know whether he's here, I'm not sure I can see him, but I know Adaro is trying to develop, Boy is here? You're trying to develop hydro to power the aluminum smelter with hydropower, right? So if you can actually do that circle, that's a sustainable circle. Very inspiring project. Has the mic moved somewhere else? We've got someone running around with a microphone. Hey, great.
Thank you for the very inspiring panel. Just have a very short question. How to educate the next generation leader for sustainable growth? Since this is very interdisciplinary topic, right? And we need the next generation leaders for sustainable growth. What are your thoughts?
How do we train business leaders to embrace sustainable growth? That's the question. Who wants to give a shot at an answer?
I don't know if I take a shot on this. I think it's a mindset, right? I mean, it's like what Raju was saying is that sustainability is a human solution. Sustainability is existential, right? Whether not just whether human can exist, but it's also your company existential. If you think, business, there are two kind of I would say business type of people. One is the mercantilism. So you just do trade and then one day you are doing business A and then you make quite a big of money and then you see an opportunity to do business B and you forget about your business A. If that's what you do as a business person, it's very difficult to discuss about sustainability. But if you are thinking that we are going to be doing this for 50 years, for 100 years, your sustainability question is becoming an existential question, whether you can be doing the same thing for the next 50, 100 years. I think that's a mindset. Yeah?
Very good answer. The microphone has gone somewhere. Who has a mic? Who has a question? It's hard to see here. We have a lot of lights on us. Someone got a microphone? Are there any more questions? Yes. Where did perfect.
Hi, Dean Garrett. My name is Anna, USC P 92. Okay. So I have questions for each panel, including you, Dean Garrett.
Same question, or we have four questions?
No, different 4 questions. It's too easy for you if it's one.
Okay. Would you like to come up? You can be the moderator
No.
for a while.
Not at all. I'm enjoying my seat here, actually, with the fellow Trojans. So my question first is actually to Raju, because Raju, perhaps among all these Trojans, he's the most clever one because he's double with Harvard. So he's one of the Harvard fellow. So you talk about sustainability, and I agree with you that it's not about the environment and per se, it's about the human, how to humanize us, right? How to have the change of mindset. When you look at Indonesia Emas 2045, Yeah. What do you think Indonesia government should do to make sure that the gold is there and we continue to get the gold beyond 2045? Hold that thought. You are clever enough to actually answer it.
We have to remember the question.
Yes, of course, he's Harvard.
It's going to be a challenge for everybody.
Yeah, of course, we are a fight on. Next, Ibu Silva. So on your view as Mandiri Securitas and fellow Trojans, what do you think that the fellow, I mean, you and I almost about the same grades. What can we do as Indonesian Trojans for the fellow young uns here, for the next generations to love Indonesia and to love Trojans as the way we are? So please hold that thought and please give your view, your view. No need to have left and right. And Pak Husodo, everyone, I have to say to all of you, including Dean Garrett, Pak Husodo is the founder of Alumni USC Indonesia. Take a big applause, please. I think without him, there is no alumni USC Indonesia. Correct me, Pak Holik, right? So I think, Pak Husodo, when I look at your USC class of 77, I was wondering, back then I'm 5 years old, Pak. Sorry. It shows my age and it shows yours. But you look very young. So what is your secret? No, can I have the ladies there, you know, the Mrs. Husodo there. You can tell your secret among us. It's, you know, no, it's okay, right? What do you think Indonesia Emas 2045, in your view as a Trojan 77, should be? I mean, you are our mentors, the big mentors of our generations, me and Silva, and also Raju. But then I want to see your view, and also later on Pak Edwin's view, how we and the next generations of Trojans can actually fulfill your dream. Sorry, Pak, you are Opa already, right? My status not yet Opa, including Harun already Opa here and Pak Edwin. But we, not the Opa one, we need to continue the legacy of your Indonesian Trojans. Okay, hold that thought, okay. Next. You, of course. I need to ask you, Dean Garrett. You know, the first time I met you in Trojan's office last year, if I'm not mistaken, I asked you that, I mean, all of the panels agree that to have Indonesia Emas 2045, what we need is not the natural resources of Indonesia. What we need is a gold human resources of Indonesia. And as marshals, and why we are sitting here, all of us gathering here, because we actually want to urge USC, if we can have 2 years in Indonesia and 2 years in USC and still have OPT in the US and they come back to actually have the dream job in Indonesia. Can you actually fulfill our dreams, Dean Garrett, which of course resonate the whole floor here, because we want to see the next generations of Trojans, not like Europe demographic, but as Indonesia young demographic. I think that's it. Please kindly,
so I think,
I have to ask that question.
I think what
right?
this means, I'm going to translate this as everybody gets a closing statement.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you very
closing
much.
statement. Do we want to go around the horn on the closing statements? You want to go first?
I actually don't remember the question, but I answered.
Brilliant.
It's quite, you know, when you talk about Indonesia Emas 2045, I think this is just simply coined because it's 100 years and you want to call it gold. Traditionally, when someone say golden period, they were looking behind, not looking to the front, right? When you say Hollywood golden period was in the 60s, they said it in the 70s and 80s. They didn't say it in the 50s because you don't know what's coming. To your question, what's next? Well, if you want to have gold, let's have platinum next. Let's have a diamond after that, right? And carry on. But the point is, I think if you want to look at what is Indonesia goal, it's really to avoid the middle income trap. That's probably the one that you need to address. Can you become a $20,000, which is I think what the standard is, $20,000 per capita income? And then how do you make sure your Gini coefficient is low, right? So, you have that sort of equality. I'm not saying socialism, but you reach that decent life. And talking about decent, in 2045, the young generation, the one that you are sort of alluding to, they need life too. And they need a good place. It's not just living, right? It's also life. So what kind of life? $20,000 income, living in a cramped city, is that a life? Right? So we have to think quality and not just that numbers, right? Not just dollars. And that's not defined. I have not seen any definition of what is Indonesia Emas 2045 means in terms of indicators, except that it's 100 years and we have a 20,000 plus income per capita. I think that's my closing statement.
Okay, closing statement number 2.
Thank you, Bu Anna, for the question. Yes, we are about a similar batch. So I think why it's great to be Trojan. Look at this crowd. I mean, all ages, all kind of background. This is a community of its own. This is like a big family of its own. And most importantly, Trojan provides the best networking. Whatever you need. One thing very interesting in the Trojan, one of the Trojan WhatsApp group that I'm in, that Ibu Anna is also in, when people just say, oh, I need to find supplier of this and this, immediately, not long after, there will be another Trojan taking up the questions or the query. So I think the Trojan community that we have built, this is priceless. Do you realize that there is a wait list for this event? Some people want to come today and cannot come because the capacity is full. So on Indonesia, our country has such a big prospect and so much opportunity. And we have seen that under the right government, under President Jokowi's administration, Indonesia has emerged as a very strong economy. So there is still so much potential in this country if we do it right. I think I saw a lot of young people in this room. The tech startup, for example, is Indonesia the most technologically advanced? No, not necessarily, but we have the highest tech startup in ASEAN. Indonesia is the center for entrepreneurs because there is so much opportunity.
Soto, how do you stay so young?
Okay.
Wasn't that the question?
Yes, that's the question. You guys should try to eat pineapples every day. And I am sure it will keep you young because it has antioxidant. Okay? All right.
And the pineapples are beautiful, no question.
The pineapple is good tasting and beautiful. Yes. So, the size of the economy, I came back in 78. And compared then, the size of the economy of Indonesia and now is completely changed, right? And the size of the economy in 20 years to come, it will be dramatically changed. It is going to be bigger. It's going to be more sophisticated, so to say. So, and in 78, when I came back, there is nothing. Whatever you do, you can make money, right? Whatever you do, there is lack of capital. there is lack of knowledge. So we are much better now, but we are going to be a different size of economy. So the knowledge acquisition is very, very important for young people. And when you have such a bigger size economy, supposedly, I mean theoretically, there will be more competition. And when you have more competition, you really have to work harder. And I think that will keep Indonesia progress. So, yeah, so that is my view. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I'll go last. And Anna, your question about how to create more opportunities for students to study at USC without having to pay the full cost of a USC degree, something I'm thinking a lot about. But of course, there's still great value, as you know, to spending time in the United States. So it's fantastic that that Pak Boy was willing to do a scholarship to take the cost out of the equation for Indonesians in the IBER program. That's one way to do it. I think there are other things we can do by granting credit towards our degrees from study that's done locally here that reduces the cost. I think it's easier for us to do that at the graduate level than the undergraduate level, but we could have a conversation about that. What you don't know is that the time's up sign came about 5 minutes ago, and I think everybody is probably ready to move on to the party part of this event. So could everyone in the audience please join me in thanking our panelists for such a fantastic conversation. Thank you. And I've now learned that we have to stay here. We're staying here.
Thank you very much, and give a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen, to Dean Garrett and our panelists, Mr. Husodo Angko Subroto, Mrs. Silva Halib, and Mr. Raja Munusami. Please kindly rise from your seat and be at the center of the stage, as we will have the token of appreciation moment presented by the MISEP students. So we would like to kindly call for Brian Lee, Chris Wadwadani, and Tanner Thompson once again to the stage. The MISEP student is a Marshall International Summer Internship undergraduate student that doing internship in Trojan's company in Indonesia for around 3 months. Can you please Brian Lee, Chris Wadwadani, and Tanner Thompson to give the appreciation and gratitude to our speakers and moderator. Give a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again to our esteemed speakers and moderator, Dean Garrett especially, for his exceptional role as our moderator on our panel today, for their valuable and insightful contribution to expertise and enrich our panel session significantly. We kindly please for Mr. Husodo Angko Subroto, Mrs. Silva Halim, Mr. Raja Munusami, and Dean Garrett to return to their seats. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow participants, in the fields of education, the contribution of our teachers are invaluable, shaping the minds and also futures of countless individuals. We have distinct pleasure of commemorating a truly remarkable individual this evening. Professor Drobnik, after dedicating an incredible 47 years of service at USC Marshall, is now reaching a well-deserved retirement. It is with immense admiration and gratitude that we gather here today to honor him for his exceptional contribution to the academic community. As a symbol of our deep respect and appreciation, AUSG has prepared a token of gratitude to be presented to Professor Drobnik on this special occasion. We are honored to have Pa Andrew Subowo to join us to open this significant moment with his heartfelt remarks. Pa Andrew Subowo, the stage is yours.
Good evening, my fellow USC and AUSCI alumni. I'm here to announce the departure of a long-serving professors from USC, Dr. Dick Drobnik. And after 47 years, Dr. Dick Drobnik has decided to retire from USC. He's a champion of international studies, and his leadership in IBRA program and international studies at USC has led USC Marshals to be one of the top and ranked 15th best business school in the US. For those of you who knows Dr. Drobnik, you will remember him as a soft-spoken person, sharp memories, and more importantly, his plenty of smiles. In all the years I've met Dr. Drobnik, Dick,
Thank you, Pa Andrew, for your thoughtful remarks. Please kindly remain on stage now. In this special moment, we kindly request Professor Drobnik accompanied by, do we have Sherry in the house also? We would like to kindly request for Sherry to accompany Professor Drobnik to come forward and receive the token of appreciation.
Dick, on behalf of the IBR friends at Indonesia, we'd like to thank you for your long-lasting dedications to the international studies, and you help shape the global citizens to better understanding not only about international trades, but also about international cultures. So we thank you. Dick and his wife Sherry will retire in Ubud. During his last forum, he said there is nothing in the world that can replicate the welcoming experience of Ubud, of Bali, and then that's exactly what he's planning to do. So, once again, thank you.
Thank you, Pa Andrew. Kindly remain on stage, and we also would like to call upon Mr. Rich Robinson to also joining us on stage. And now it is the time for us to hear from the man itself, Professor Drobnik. Give a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen.
Bapak-bapak dan ibu-ibu, selamat datang ke Marshall Summit Trojan Reunion ini. Saya banyak senang bertemu 300 kawan-kawan di USC dan juga di alumni USC. For you non-Bahasa speakers, fathers and mothers, yes, fathers and mothers, welcome to this wonderful event, this Marshall Summit and Trojan Reunion. I'm very happy to see 300 or 400 alumni and friends of USC here. Just maybe two kind of focuses of my my thoughts at the moment. One is gratitude, and the other is progress. So I'm very grateful to friends at USC and friends in Indonesia. So friends at USC have created opportunities for me over 47 years, to do research, to teach, and to build institutions. And I'll start out with saying some of you older, more senior alums remember Jack Steele, the dean of the business school, and Roy Herberger, the founder of the IBER MBA program. And they provided me the opportunity to become the second director of IBER. And then Steve Sample and Lloyd Armstrong, the president of USC and the provost, provided me the opportunity to be the inaugural vice provost for globalization. And then Jim Ellis provided me the opportunity to come back to IBER, to be IBER director for a second time from 2014 to now. And our current leader, Jeff Garrett, has provided me with an opportunity to be a senior advisor to him. So I think the word senior here means that saya orang tua, an orang tua advisor to the dean. And that's okay. My wife said it's okay, even though we're going to live in Bali, I can visit Jakarta once in a while. But also great gratitude to Indonesian friends that have helped me develop opportunities in Indonesia. And let me mention just a few. Bustanil Arifin, William Surajaya, Mokhtar Riyadi, Edwin Surajaya, Husodo Anko Sabroto, Pakerti, and all of the IBER alumni, about 100 IBER alumni in Indonesia, have created great opportunities for friendship. And I've enjoyed this very much, and I'm very grateful for that. And let me just make one or two comments about progress, kemajuan. Saya datang ke Indonesia kali yang pertama tahun 1968. Itu tiga tahun selepas Gestapo. Everything is broken. Everything is broken. And you look today and everything is growing. My first time in Indonesia was 1968, and I came here 3 years after the coup and the chaos of the coup, and everything was broken, really broken. And the incredible progress that's been made in these 50 years is really quite remarkable, because this country could have gone into deep chaos, and it didn't. And part of that is, of course, because of the energy and drive and intellectual capital of people in this room and many other people, not just Trojan alumni, but alumni from universities around the world. And so I think that's just remarkable to see, and I've had the opportunity in some tiny way to maybe contribute to that. The other progress I'd like to mention is what Dean Jeff Garrett mentioned, the progress of AUSI, and what an incredible institution that you USC Trojan alumni have built. I've had the pleasure of working with AUSI leaders on many occasions, perhaps starting with the USC trustee visit to Jakarta in 1997, but also in 2011 when we started the Marshall Summer Internship Program, sending undergraduates to Indonesia for 8 to 10 weeks. Probably 70 to 80 Marshall School undergraduates have benefited from 10 weeks of living experience working experience in Jakarta, and that's all been because of AUSI. AUSI has found them the internships. And then again, working with AUSI to create the IBER International Business Forum in Bali in 2012, which attracted about 150 people from around the Pacific Rim. And then working with AUSI again in December of 22 to create another international business forum. So let me close with, again, gratitude to Indonesian friends, gratitude to USC friends for creating great opportunities for me to have a lot of fun. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Professor Drobnik, please remain on stage as we will present you the token of appreciation for your dedication. Therefore, we would like to kindly invite for Mr. Rich Robinson from the IBER to join us on stage to present the token of appreciation. Mr. Rich Robinson or Mr. Benson Ishak. Oh, we do have Mr. Rich Robinson. Kindly please. The token of appreciation is a photo gallery, contains all the beautiful memories of Professor Drobnik with all of our Aussie friends in Indonesia. So kindly please, Mr. Rich Robinson to present the token of appreciation. Tonight, as we gather on this beautiful occasion, let us take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate the exceptional dedication and 47 years of service that Professor Drobnik has given to USC Marshall. Your dedication has left an incredible mark on the academic community, especially for Aussie, and we're deeply grateful for your contribution. Let us celebrate this significant milestone together on our reunion session tonight later on. And give a big round of applause once again to Professor Drobnik. As a mark of our respect, may I have everybody stand up and give standing applause to Professor Drobnik. I would like to call to all of our students from IBER to join us for a photo session with Professor Drobnik. Kindly please, all the IBER students to join us on stage for a photo session with Professor Drobnik. And also all the IBER alumni, we would like to also invite you to take this momentum as our memories goes on with all the great contribution from Professor Drobnik. Can you see those big smile on Professor Drobnik's face? The big smile of freedom to retirement full of happiness. Thank you once again, Professor Drobnik and all the IBER alumni. We kindly please you to return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now the time for us to enjoy a coffee break and networking session. Take this opportunity to enjoy the refreshment and connect with our fellow Trojans before we move on to the next highlighted agenda. We also would like to inform you that the prayer room are available near to the lobby at the first floor. We are delighted to share that we will have the esteemed presence of our guest of honor, the Honorable Minister of the Republic of Indonesia, that will joining us for the next special occasion after the break. We will continue with the Tamba Samba Scholarship Launching Procession after the break. Thank you and enjoy your break. I will see you in 30 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jeff Garrett. I'm Dean of the Marshall School of Business at USC, and I can't wait to see you in Jakarta in early August. We're planning just a spectacular event in partnership with AUSI. What an amazing group of alumni we have in Indonesia. And we're not only going to be focusing on the school in USC, but on what's going on in Indonesia. So I think the fact that we are looking at the intersection of business and technology and the role that that plays in development of a country like Indonesia is just fantastic. We're going to have wonderful programming on the stage, but I know it's also going to be an incredible social event. So I really look forward to seeing everybody in Jakarta. Fight on.
Great school. I learn a lot, tapi juga yang paling penting networking gitu kan. We have to be proud of the USC alumni. Saya ketemu dengan Dean Garrett, pokoknya beliau juga ingin mendukung program-program USC alumni kita. Insya Allah Agustus kita akan ada satu kegiatan bersama AUSI. Saya benar-benar kembali ngajak teman-teman gitu ya. Ya mestinya the Trojan spirit tuh kita bangkitkan lagi karena alumni kita tuh one of the biggest. Di Indonesia for sure the biggest. Nah, kita coba kita sama-sama sekarang dari beberapa generasi ini kita hadir, kita support USC alumni Indonesia tuh bisa contribute back to the nation.
Embrace residence and citizenship in a foreign nation. Elevate your quality of life. Enjoy visa-free travel. Provide the best education to your children. Embrace boundless opportunities. Destiny Migration Company. Your destiny with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, kindly please be seated as we are about to start our event shortly. And for those of you who are still at the foyer area, we would like to kindly please for your cooperation to enter the Astor Ballroom and kindly proceed to your seating as we are about to start our event shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with utmost honor and pleasure that we have the distinguished presence of our esteemed guest of honor today. Welcome to Minister Nadiem Makarim, Madam Minister Retno Marsudi, who is joining us virtually, and Minister Erick Thohir. Therefore, we would like to kindly please you, ladies and gentlemen, to proceed to your seat as we will start our next agenda of today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with utmost honor and pleasure that we have distinguished presence of our esteemed guests of honor today. Welcome to Minister Eric Thohir, Minister Nadiem Makarim, and Madam Minister Retno Marsudi, who is joining us virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly be seated. We are about to start our next agenda. Good evening, distinguished guests, Trojans, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the USC Marshall Summit and Trojans Reunion in Indonesia. In this session, we are privileged to conduct the Tamba Samba Scholarship Launch and Handover Procession. It is with utmost honor and pleasure that we have the distinguished presence of our esteemed guests of honor today. On behalf of AUSCHI board members and trustees, and of course the AUSCHI Summit, and all the Trojans, we would like to extend our warmest welcome to Minister Nadiem Makarim. And also our warmest welcome to Minister Eric Thohir. And Madam Minister Retno Marsudi, who is joining us virtually. Furthermore, we are thrilled to be honored by the presence of Mr. Garibaldi Thohir. Welcome back, boy. Representing the esteemed Muhammad Thohir Foundation, their valued contribution to this program has been instrumental in its success. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and all Trojans, it is our privilege to have the support of Madam Minister Retno Marsudi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, who is joining us virtually today. Let us focus on to the skill in hearing her remarks on this auspicious occasion. Madam Minister Retno Marsudi, the floor is yours.
Minister Nadiem Makarim, Minister Erick Thohir, Mr. Garibaldi Thohir, Dean Jeffrey Garrett, boards and advisors, distinguished USC alumni. I would like to apologize for not being able to be with you this evening in person due to prior engagement. Congratulations on the accomplishment of the USC alumni. Indonesia will mark its 100th year of independence in 2045. Strong human capital is key to achieve the Indonesia Emas 2045 vision, which needs a young generation that is hardworking, innovative, and competitive. I want to highlight how the USC alumni can contribute to this goal and drive a stronger Indonesia-US relation. First, fostering a stronger cooperation. According to recent poll by Lowy Institute, most Indonesians still view the US as the most important country for Indonesia's economy. 4 out of 10 Indonesians are in favor of investment from the US. The US must view Indonesia through the same lens of importance. We are the world's 4th most populous country, the 3rd largest democracy, and one of the most important players in the global EV ecosystem. With a growing number of 2,500 alumni, all of you is a valuable asset for better understanding and stronger relation between Indonesia and the US. The USC alumni can take part by enhancing people-to-people and business-to-business contact toward a mutually beneficial partnership in many areas. Second, enhancing education cooperation. Education cooperation is an important part of Indonesia-US strategic partnership. We must capitalize on US commitment on this area. The launch of scholarship program by AUSCI would contribute to this effort whilst also giving back to society. Investing in the younger generation means investing in future leaders who will sustain the Indonesia-US partnership. Mari kita tambah orang pintar untuk Indonesia. Fight on. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Minister Retno Marsudi. Ladies and gentlemen, the Thohir Marshall MBA Scholarship Program is a collaboration between the Muhammad Thohir Foundation, AUSCI, and USC Marshall. It aims to enhance Indonesia's human capital with excellence and global mindset. Applicants must commit to working in Indonesia for 5 years. The scholarship covers expenses for 5 exceptional Indonesians to pursue a 1-year MISIP MBA at USC. It opens door to future leaders, expand their global management perspective, and build valuable network. Yesterday, we have conducted the handover ceremony and the press conference on this matter. Let us focus our attention to the screen and witness the highlight of those remarkable moments.
So the Tambah Scholarship is to allow additional Indonesians to come to the Marshall School to pursue the IBER MBA. And it really is going to broaden the base for the Marshall School in Indonesia because it's going to create opportunities for students who otherwise would never have thought of applying to an American university like USC.
So they learn from the faculty. We have great professors at the Marshall School, but they learn at least half as much from their other students. And they build these networks with mid-career people from Japan, from Korea, from India, from the United States. And it's a learning experience for our professors because we have these mid-career people who have so much experience.
Program tambah ini sebenarnya sangat mudah dan sangat terbuka luas. Oleh karena itu kami mengajak untuk teman-teman yang terutama ingin masuk dalam dunia bisnis internasional untuk segera bergabung, dan kita juga bisa membuka network untuk bisa memberikan kontribusi kepada Indonesia ke depannya.
Kepada para pihak yang ingin menambah ilmu pengetahuan, mari coba untuk apply ke tambah program. Mari ikut program yang akan tambah orang pintar untuk Indonesia, dan mari berkontribusi untuk negeri kita sendiri.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are also delighted to welcome Pak Edwin Suryajaya from the William and Lily Foundation, whose interest has been piqued by the involvement of the Muhammad Tohir Foundation in this scholarship program. His commitment of $1 million in the form of support are truly appreciated, and it will undoubtedly make a significant impact on the future of the recipients. Ladies and gentlemen, together we celebrate collaboration and the pursuit of knowledge, and we thank each one of you for being an integral part of this auspicious occasion. Let us open our precious moment by the remarks from AUSCHI Board Member Representative. We would like to kindly please to join us on stage, Pak Holip Sukawan. The stage is yours.
Greetings, Honorable U.S. Ambassador Kim, Minister Tohir and Minister Makarim, and Marshal Dean Joffrey and the USC team, and fellow Trojans and friends. Just yesterday, after months of hard work by the committee, our esteemed alumni Pak Boy Tohir signed an MOU with our Alumni Association for the Tohir Foundation to fund 5 new MBA at the USC IBR MBA program. Round of applause, please. What is different about this program is each of the 5 MBA scholarship recipients will be required to come back and work in Indonesia for at least 5 years after they get their MBA. In total, this program will result in 25 cumulative years of service by new USC MBAs. So it's from Indonesia and for Indonesia. And for that, we thank you again, Pak Boy Tohir. $1 million deal with a lot of zeros, but these zeros would only mean something if someone is willing to put a real number in front of the zeros. Thank you, Pak Boy, for stepping in front of the 6 zeros so it becomes a real $1 million scholarship program. And we want to thank Franz, the president of AUSCHI, and his team who've worked tirelessly to make this happen. Big, big round of applause to Franz and the AUSCHI team. The committee named this program TAMBA, the Tohir AUSCHI MBA Scholars Program. Who knew this naming would be fortuitous? Tamba in Indonesia means to add, and Tamba we did. Upon learning what Pak Boy did, Pak Edwin Suryajaya, who's like an uncle to Pak Boy, told Dean Joffrey, hey, I will do it too. Long story short, here we are. The USC alumni of Indonesia have signed 2 MOUs in the past 2 days with 2 captains of industries, Pak Edwin and Pak Boy. Following Tamba, we will do the Samba, the Suryajaya AUSCHI MBA Scholars Program. This means another 5 USC-trained MBAs for Indonesia, another 25 years of service for Indonesia. Wow, I guess it's really time to do the samba dance, Dean Joffrey. We USC alumni are prepared. There will be an after party tonight, and we'll do the samba dance together. Another big round of applause for Pa Edwin and Pa Boy, please. I guess now we turn our attention to the recipient of the scholarship fund, our alma mater, USC, to the Marshall team here. Where else in the world outside of the US can you witness 2 scholarship MOUs worth $1 million each being signed in a span of 2 days? We, the USC alumni of Indonesia, is proud to send students to our alma mater, but unfortunately, we are an endangered species. During Pa Edwin and Pa Boy's time at USC in the 70s, there were about 400 Indonesians at any time at USC. During my time in the 90s, there were about 250 Indonesians. Now, who's a recent graduate here? Who graduated after 2015? Okay, may I ask how many Indonesians were in your cohort? 30? Wow. Okay, I guess the trend is clear. Indonesians is a dying breed at USC. For the Marshall team representing USC here today, please keep the Indonesian pipeline alive. Attract and admit more Indonesians at USC. Let me end by paraphrasing what JFK once said. Ask not what your alumni can do for you. Ask what you can do for your alumni. Please convey this message back to USC. In the meantime, let's fight on together.
Thank you, Pak Holly. Please remain on stage, Pak Holly, as we will continue to the proceeding of digital hand scan ceremony to launch our program for today. We also would like to welcome Mr. Garibadi Thohir, Pak Edwin Suryajaya, and Dean Joffrey to join us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the momentous occasion we have all been eagerly anticipating is finally here. With immense excitement, we proudly announce the launch of Tamba Samba Scholarship Program and website. To commemorate this remarkable moment, we are honored to have Mr. Garibaldi Thohir, Pak Edwin Suryajaya, Pak Holid Sukawan, and Dean Joffrey to join us in conducting the procession. Pak Boy, Pak Edwin, Pak Holib, and Dean Joffrey, kindly position yourself with your hand on the screen and facing the camera. Kindly place your face facing the camera or photographer first. Dean Joffrey boleh berbalik badan. Bapak Ibu dipersilakan. Yes, Dean Joffrey, would you like to kindly see the photographer first? Hand still on the LED. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will conduct a countdown from 3, 2, 1. Officially inaugurate the Tamba Samba Scholarship Program with a symbolic digital hand scan. Now, are you ready? In 3, 2, 1. Congratulations on the official launch of the Tamba Samba Scholarship Program. Thank you everyone for being part of this remarkable moment. Let us continue to make a positive impact through education and support Tamba Orang Pintar di Indonesia menuju Indonesia Emas 2045. Now, as a symbol of today's momentous occasion, we would like to proceed with a photo session with the giant check. Pak Boy, Pak Edwin, Pak Holib, and Dean Joffrey, kindly join us in holding the giant check to commemorate the significant scholarship initiative. Moreover, we extend our invitation to Bapak Bambang Suwarso and Ibu Anu Pratisya Sutanto to join us on stage in marking this important event. Photographers and press team, be on position. The Tahir Foundation, with the generous support of Pak Boy, and also the William and Lily Foundation from Pak Edwin, is presenting the Tamba Samba Scholarship to Auschi, who will later transfer it to the USC Marshall MISP MBA program. Once again, congratulations to all those involved in making this scholarship program possible. Your contribution will undoubtedly have a positive impact on the life of many Indonesian students pursuing their education dreams towards Indonesia Emas 2045. Give a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen, to Pak Boy, Pak Edwin, Pak Holib, Dean Joffrey, Bapak Bambang Suarsa, and Ibu Ana Pratrisya. You may return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor that we welcome another Minister of the Republic of Indonesia to deliver his remarks. Please join me in giving a resounding round of applause to Minister of State-Owned Enterprise of the Republic of Indonesia, Minister Erick Thohir. The stage is yours.
So after Tamba and Samba, Nadim would like also to provide some scholarship, right? So will be Namba. Come on, Nadim. Huh? No? Huh? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Shalom. Om Swastiastu, Nama Budaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, U.S. Ambassador to Republic of Indonesia, Ambassador Sung Kim, my good friend. Minister of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, Bapak Nadiem Anwar Makarim, who just add on to USC scholarship with Namba. Robert R. Dodson, Dean Chairs in the Business Administration, Mr. Geoffrey Garrett. Pleased to meet you, sir. President Director of Adaro Energy Indonesia, whom I know. My big brother, Mr. Garibaldi Thohir. Fellow Trojans, fight on. I extend to you all a very warm welcome. It is an honor for me to greet you as an alumni from one of the best schools in US. I'm excited to share our journey, our inspirations, and our vision with you today. The United States and Indonesia are two vibrant democracies with dynamic economies and share many similarities. Our nations are founded on the principle of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. Our economics thrive on innovation, entrepreneurships, and a spirit of resilience that defines our peoples. As non-alliance country, Indonesia focuses on mutually beneficial economic development by positioning Indonesia as a global supply chains. Indonesia is a strategic partner for United States because one of the strong relations between the two countries, one on which focus on economic development. We believe the good economic relation between the two countries will continue to grow and be mutually beneficial. Indonesia continues to develop as essential hub with the global supply chains. Indonesia has the world's largest nickel reserve, which are independently for manufacturing EV batteries. Additionally, Indonesia ranks 6th in terms of having its bauxite reserve utilized across the globe as a crucial sources for producing components in solar panels, which is the green energy that we are needed in the futures. Indonesia also plays a significant role in bolstering food security. Indonesia can be offer valuable support in providing various food supplies to global and to US, and also US to Indonesia as the other way around. Moreover, Indonesia continue to develop its digital economy potential, expected to become the largest in Southeast Asia by 2030, value at $324 billion US. To achieve this desired growth, Indonesia will greatly benefit from the support and collaboration, particularly in semiconductor equipment, which is both countries has been discussing in the last 2 months. And of course, digital infrastructures. These specific areas present excellent opportunity for partnership between United States and Indonesia. I sincerely hope that our positive relation can continue to flourish. I've also met the USC Leonard Davis School offer gerontology as one of the experts in the field of elderly that is needed in Indonesia when I visit US around 2 years ago. Currently, we are building the Sanur Special Economic Zone for Health Service, which is partnering with Mayo Clinic. We are open, and we're still hoping that we can partner also with USC Medical School in the futures. And we have many investors coming in also here, I believe. I would like to assure that the partnership with the state-owned enterprise is worthwhile considerations, as these enterprises currently demonstrate is in healthy financial standing. In 2022, state-owned enterprise were able to generate a substantial revenue with US around 176 billion, with a profit of 20 billion. And we are managing of total assets around USD 627 billion. So it should be a good partnerships. As evidence of our successful partnership, we have had the honor of working with distinguished global players, such as GMR from India for airport operations in Kuala Namu in Medan. And also we've been partnered with DP World from UAE to operating some of our seaport also in Sumatra. LG is the electric vehicle sectors and several others across various partnerships globally. With this synergy of today activities, there is a spirit of optimism to achieve the vision of Golden Indonesia 2045. I believe USC Marshall alumni are talented human resources that the country needs to realize the vision of Golden Indonesia in 2045. Once again, thank you for invitations. Let's shape our futures for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Eric Thohir, for the warm welcome remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, up next, let us welcome to the stage Minister Nadiem Makarim, the esteemed Minister of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology of the Republic of Indonesia, to share his valuable insight and remarks with us. Minister Nadiem Makarim, the stage is yours.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm always nervous when I have to follow Mas Eric in speeches. Especially when he twisted my hand for that contribution. But unfortunately, I have to clarify that I'm not an alumni of USC. And so when I got the invitation, I was very honored and I was very happy to be here because, as I can see in this room, clearly this is the most energetic, powerful, and highly activistic alumni group of any US university in Indonesia, because I've never been to an alumni program event of this caliber, to be honest. And I could really feel the project. First of all, I'd like to thank Pak Boy and Pak Edwin for inviting me here, and Jeff, who we spoke to also before, Mr. Ambassador, and all the people that have played a pivotal role in launching this event. I first want to say how amazing it is I heard that this is one of the first alumni organizations that actually created a fund and potentially a more larger endowment fund for scholarships of Indonesians that are need-based to be able to pursue degrees in USC Marshall and maybe other programs. So a big round of applause for this fantastic program. I think a lot of other alumni organizations should see USC as a role model of giving back. We are actually in Kemendikbudristek, we work together with the Ministry of Finance to provide all kinds of scholarships. Indonesia actually has one of the largest endowment funds for educational scholarships. We're approaching about $8 billion of endowment fund for education now. Yes. I have to give most of that credit to Ibu Sri Mulyani, who very tactfully always made sure that leftover budget for education went into this permanent endowment fund and can be used for education. So partnering with the LPDP endowment fund, we've been able to provide scholarships this year, if I'm not mistaken, to over 200,000 students. So the programs, when Kemendikbud, our Ministry of Education, finally started the innovative project of innovating our scholarship program, we really tried to push the limit. For the first time ever, undergraduates were allowed to get scholarships to US universities, top European universities as well. And for the first time ever, we were providing non-degree scholarships, which is why one of the things, Jeff, that I really wanted to impress upon you is that, okay, maybe you can, for every master's student that you send to Marshall, for one semester, you could send 7 or 8 potential students to do a semester abroad. So just think about the volume that you can get if you also have some of these scholarship programs, as they get bigger and bigger, your endowment fund semester abroad, where the best of the best Indonesian students from our local universities can spend one semester in USC. I think that would be a fantastic idea and infinitely more scalable. Not everyone has a chance to get accepted to the full degree programs, but the semester abroad, I think, is much more malleable. So the ISMA program, we've sent over 5,000 to 6,000 students now for semesters abroad, a large chunk of them in North America, Canada and the US, to top universities around the world. And it's the most selective program we have. So I think that universities like USC can do a lot, and the alumni of USC can do a lot to accelerate this process. One of the things that I would really like to remind all you successful people here is that the Campus Merdeka program, we're one of the first countries that has allowed any company, any industry, to become an accredited university for 6 months. Now, it always surprises me that people still don't know this. So if your company right now, your business, your startup, or your company does not yet have a Campus Merdeka program, then you don't have any rights to complain about our undergraduate quality. This is one thing I tell every single businessman here. Please open up your industries to create a semester-long program that university students will get a full 20 credits as if they had gone to university for 6 months, because we need the blend of industry and academic education from everyone. Up to today, since we launched the program 2.5 years ago, 785,000 students in university have left campus to go study a semester outside of campus, whether it's in a different campus, industry, independent study projects, entrepreneurial projects, or even social projects like teaching in the regions of Indonesia. So please support the cause. Support the Campus Merdeka cause. If your company does not have a Campus Merdeka program yet, please make one and help the next generation make it an incredible experience. And I think USC alumni are among the most successful alumni groups in Indonesia. And I think that it would immensely help not only your businesses, but the next generation. And finally, I think out of all these initiatives, and Jeff, this is also to highlight to you that we have an incredible matching fund program that if any foreign university wants to create joint degree programs in Indonesia, or if you want to set up a film school, or an athletic school, or a business school in Indonesia, in any shape or form, a basketball school, exactly, Mas Eric, a basketball school, or any shape or form, Indonesia will commit the matching funds. It's called our matching fund program, and as long as you collaborate with a local university, we will create a matching fund scheme to support your entry into Indonesia. We are rolling the red carpet to all foreign universities, world-class universities to come, and we hope that you help us improve our educational system. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Go Trojans.
Thank you. Minister Nadiem, please kindly stay on stage. Minister Nadiem, please kindly stay on stage as we will have photo sessions. Therefore, we would like to kindly please for Minister Erick Thohir along with all of AUSCHI Board of Supervisors and Trustees and AUSCHI Summit Committee to join us on stage. Pak Boy Thohir, Pak Husodo Angko Subroto, Pak Rudian Kopot, Pak Holim Sukawan, Ibu Ana Patricia Sutanto, Bapak Andrew Subowo, and Ibu Foni Irawan, along with our Summit Committee, Pak Franz, Bernard, Vanessa, Tiffany, Larry, Lauren, Patricia, Yeni, Felicia, and Bambang. Everyone, please face the camera and giving your biggest smile. With the Trojans, fight on! Give a big round of applause once again to Minister Erick Thohir, Minister Nadiem Makarim, all the members of AUSCHI Board of Member and Trustees, and the Committee of AUSCHI Summit 2023. Thank you, Minister Erick Thohir and Minister Nadiem Makarim, for gracing us with your esteemed presence. We kindly please you to return to your seat and enjoy the dinner alongside all of AUSCHI Board of Supervisors and Trustees. We hope that you find the evening enjoyable and filled with meaningful conversation and connections. Thank you, Minister Eric Thohir and Minister Nadiem Makarim, for gracing us with your esteemed presence. We understand the demands of your busy schedule, and with utmost gratitude, we kindly please you to proceed to your next engagement, escorted by all of us, the Board of Supervisor and Trustees, as you gratefully leave the room. Please give a round of applause once again to our distinguished guests of honor as they make their way.